Chapter 1023 Black God Cavalry Corps. With a Black God horse den filled with divinity as the vessel, this corps of cavalrymen can directly communicate with Black God horses. Their powers can be fused, and the corps formation will be a Black God horse. The limit of 1 million soldiers has been increased. After looking at the Black God Cavalry Corps' information, Zhao Fu felt quite shocked. He found that the information about a cavalry corps was different to that of a special corps. Normally, corps formations would receive great power. However, not only did the cavalry corps receive power, but they could also communicate with Black God horses. Now that they could communicate, their teamwork would naturally be better. Moreover, the cavalry corps could fuse with horses' power, which meant that their power could be fused together to form an even more powerful force. Zhao Fu had never thought that this would happen. Just based on this alone, the cavalry corps was much more powerful than a special corps. Because of the additional power from war horses, the cavalry corps would have an advantage in battles against other corps. Following this, Zhao Fu went to the giant wolf den and fused the corps into it. Countless traces of blood-red aura burst out, and the countless giant wolves sensed this power and howled. The den gave off an intense blood-red light as blood flowed out and condensed into a ferocious blood-red wolf. It was quite big and was 5 meters long, and it gave off a dense blood-red aura. Giant Wolf Cavalry Corps. With a giant wolf den that has been strengthened by an orc blood crystal as the vessel, this corps of cavalrymen will be able to directly communicate with the giant wolves. The two powers can be fused, and they will also be strengthened by the den's power. The corps formation will be a giant wolf, and the limit of 1 million soldiers has been increased. The giant wolf cavalry corps stats were about the same as the black cavalry corps, so there was no need to say much. Next was the giant deer den. Countless traces of blood-red aura came out, and a powerful aura spread out, causing countless giant deer to howl. The den continuously gave off blood-red light as blood flowed out and formed a massive blood-red deer on the ground, which then turned into a blood-red stone steel. Giant Deer Cavalry Corps. With the giant deer den that has been strengthened by elf blood crystals as the vessel, this corps of cavalrymen will be able to directly communicate with the giant deer. The two powers can be fused, and they will also be strengthened by the den's power. The corps formation will be a giant deer, and the limit of 1 million soldiers has been increased. Following this, Zhao Fu started to create the other 27 corps. At the same time, he selected outstanding soldiers from the army to join them. Because the number of corps was limited, the people in them had to be elites. In the end, Zhao Fu went to the Devil City and planned to create the final corps. This place was built in an ancient Japanese style, and it was quite elegant and poetic. The city was filled with cherry blossoms, and the scenery was quite beautiful. Zhao Fu did not pay much attention to the scenery and entered the castle. However, on the way, he stopped because there were many devils ahead. There was a bewitchingly beautiful woman who gave off a noble and seductive aura. She wore light purple palace clothes, and she was one of the 3 great devils, Tamamonome. Now, she was leaning against a pillar, and her palace dress was half loose, revealing her snow-white legs and her soft chest. She looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes and lightly bit her red lips, giving off a seductive aura that could cause anyone's lust to erupt. Tamamonome was a peerless beauty who had transformed from a white-faced, golden-furred, 9-tailed fox at the end of the Heian period. Because of her vast knowledge and peerless beauty, she was called the #1 beauty in the world and the #1 talented woman in Japan. There was also an extremely beautiful woman with jet black hair that fell to her calves. She wore a gray-white, blood-stained robe, and what was quite strange was that there were 3 candles tied to her head. The candles were lit with blue flames, and she was the Kujisho woman. She was a ghost from the legends. She was a ghost of a woman who was filled with hatred and jealousy. Because she had lost her virginity and been abandoned, she had become a malicious ghost after she died. Ordinary ghosts were usually semi-transparent or covered in a white mist, but malicious ghosts gave off a red light. During the Kujisho period, 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., The Kajisho woman would nail scarecrows to the shrine's god tree. This was a type of curse that had been passed down in Japan since ancient times. Most of the time, the Kajisho woman was an extremely jealous, white-clothed woman with 3 candles on her head. If she continued to nail scarecrows for 7 days, the cursed person would die, and if someone else saw this, the curse would lose effect. There was also an extremely beautiful woman with an alluring figure. She was wrapped in a red cloth and did not seem to have any clothes underneath. She gave a faint smile as she looked at Zhao Fu. She was the 100-eyed devil. It was said that the 100-eyed devil specialized in seducing men and taking their eyes for her own use. If she took 100 eyes, the man would become a demon that could not be subdued. There was also a woman wearing a gorgeous palace dress standing to the side. She had an extremely graceful figure and was extremely alluring. She looked at Zhao Fu with a seductive gaze. She was the demon concubine Wenche. It was written in Toriyama Shurien's 100 Artifacts Empty Bag. She was a demon that was formed from Wenche, a small carriage used to transport books in the palace. She often felt the resentment in women's love letters and writings, so she turned into a demon. Later on, the Japanese people saw her as a demon that encouraged children to study. Demon concubine Wenche was also the favorite concubine of the Murakami Emperor during the Heian period. She was incredibly beautiful and was a peerless beauty. However, she was killed due to the jealousy of another favorite concubine of the emperor, Fujiwara Yuanfang's daughter, Yuji. She was an expert in waka and Chinese poetry, and before she died, she used her blood to write a curse. In the end, Prince Guamping was cursed to death. There was a woman with a cold temperament. Her hair was tied up, and she was tall. She wore a pale kimono that revealed her shoulders. She had a gloomy smile as she looked at Zhao Fu. She was the Bone Lady. It was said that the Bone Lady referred to a bony beauty who only had a set of bones. It was originally seen in the works of Koizumi Yakumo. There was a man called Shiro. He could not stand living a poor life and divorced his wife. He married a rich and influential young lady and became an official. However, Shiro became more and more tired of his new life. He missed his virtuous wife, who weaved at home all day. 1 year later, Shiro returned home at night. His wife did not blame him at all. The next morning, Shiro woke up and found a black-haired skeleton lying beside him. One was a beautiful young girl with a pair of green eyes and a head of long green hair. She wore a light blue dress, and her name was Qing Deng. Chapter 1024. Story of 100 Demons. Light 100 white candles, and then everyone in turn tells a strange and horrible story that they have experienced. And after each story is told, a candle is blown out, and the 100th story is told by the host. When the last candle is extinguished, the host will tell the story. When the last candle is extinguished, everyone who participates in the game will be taken to hell and pulled into the gates of hell, which is why they are called dangerous monsters in Japan. A very dignified beauty with snow-white hair and a pair of snow-white eyes. She wore a white kimono and looked at Zhao Fu with a gentle smile. She was a famous monster, Yukino. She was a traditional Japanese-style monster that everyone knew. She lived deep in the mountains and was almost like a human. She had a beautiful appearance and would often attract men who entered the snowy mountains to a place where there was no one else. She would kiss them and freeze them completely while they were kissing and eat their souls. The children of Yukino were called Yukino. In Japan, Yukino was a monster who brought the first snow of winter. Yukino were peerless beauties. They wore white kimonos and had light blue hair. They had a cold personality and were subordinates of the mountain god. They were in charge of the snow in winter. Young Yukino were harmless to humans, but adult Yukino would freeze the human males they liked forever and bring them back to the cave where they lived for their viewing pleasure. A slender girl with a pure face and a lace kimono stood at the side and looked at Zhao Fu with a smile. Her name was Hashiheim. Hashiheim was a type of female monster that appeared on the side of a bridge, a type of monster that had been deified. She was a god and a water demon. Because she was infatuated with others and could not be with the person she loved, she would jump from the bridge into the water to commit suicide. If a man crossed the bridge at night, she would appear and lead him into the water to drown. If a woman crossed the bridge, she would forcefully pull her into the water. Hashiheim also appeared in the Meiji monster story. There were many legends about her. She wore a palace dress and had slightly fluffy long hair. She was relatively good-looking, had black teeth, and held a mirror. She also stood by the side of the road, but she did not look at Zhao Fu. It was unknown what she was thinking. She was the Green Girl. The monster Green Girl was ranked 45th in the 100 Demons Parade. It was a type of unkempt banshee with a mouth full of black teeth. It specialized in eating humans and was highly dangerous. They were mainly found in the area around the capital. They often appeared in those gloomy old houses with a mirror in their hands. In fact, her life and legends were quite miserable and worthy of sympathy. One of them had a bewitching figure and wore a bathrobe. She had an incredibly beautiful face and gave a trace of a cold smile as she watched Zhao Fu arrive. She was the drowned woman. According to the legends, there were monsters that often appeared in the hot spring hotel. If you saw a beautiful woman soaking in a hot spring, don't go near her. Maybe if she stood up, you would find that the part of her that was submerged in the water was full of bones. It was similar to the Kappa or water ghost in Chinese legends. It was a monster that killed people by luring them in. There were two types of drowned women. The first type was a beautiful woman or handsome man with a skeleton lower body. The second type was a beautiful woman with a snake lower body. The second type was a beautiful woman with a snake lower body. The second type was a snake demon. One of them had dressed up meticulously and was wearing an exquisite kimono. She had a voluptuous figure and looked extremely lewd and lascivious as she looked at Zhao Fu hungrily. She was the two-mouth woman. In the Night of 100 Ghosts, it was recorded that women who were indecent, had affairs with their husbands, were lewd, and were despicable. Inari Kamikaze discovered that women who killed their children would be possessed by them. A mouth would appear on the back of their necks, and they would constantly want to eat. In the end, the possessed person would be eaten to death, or rather, they would be stuffed to death. They were very dangerous monsters, and even if there were dead children near where you lived, it was possible for them to be possessed. One of them was dripping wet and wore a thin white dress. Her slender figure was faintly discernible. She was quite beautiful and looked quite alluring. She was the Yuri. The Yuri was also known as the Kinu, Sea Woman, and Helgoi. Ji meant the shore. The Yuri was the banshee of the sea. She was believed to be a female spirit that had drowned in the sea. Her lower body was the tail of a dragon or snake, and her upper body was that of a woman. She had long hair and was completely wet. From behind, she looked like a rock. There was a middle-aged woman with a slim figure and beautiful facial features. Her face was a bit pale, and she wore a simple kimono. She stood by the side of the road and looked at Zhao Fu in anticipation. She was a Dumbra. Onitori was a monster from ancient Huaxia myths and legends. Sometimes it appeared in the form of 9 heads. Its origin was mentioned in the fantastic Fengtan. It was said that it was formed by the obsession of a dead pregnant woman. When she walked at night with a baby in her arms, the cries of the baby in her arms turned into the cries of Onitori. Jin Dynasty's Xuanzhongji. Sometimes an UFO bird would become a summer bird. The UFO bird would carry away the child, and the summer bird would adopt the child. One of them lazily leaned against the wall. She had a tall and slim figure and an outstanding aura, and her beautiful eyes were filled with interest as she looked at Zhao Fu. She was Patio Bottom. It was a legendary monster. The peeping demon on the skylight often appeared on the roofs of old houses. It was also a kind of demon that paid respects to the gods in legends. One of them had a fiery figure and wore a red dress. She had incredibly long hair that reached the ground and gave off a metallic luster. She was Needle Girl. It was said that if one suddenly saw a beautiful woman smiling at them on the side of the road in Shikoku-Zaheim Prefecture's Uwajima region, one should not be happy that one had good luck with women today. After all, it was very likely that this beautiful woman would suddenly wrap her soft, beautiful, and long hair around one's body as she approached. Only then would one discover that the beautiful woman's hair was as sharp as needles, and it would cause one great pain and make one cry. One of them was a beautiful middle-aged woman who wore an extravagant dress. She looked at Zhao Fu with lustful eyes as she covered her face and laughed. She was Smiling Woman. Smiling Woman was also known as Beautiful Woman, and it meant that she had a sweet smile. It was said that smiling women were formed from prostitutes, and because they were frivolous, they would constantly laugh. Those who heard her laughter would most likely meet with misfortune. One of them wore a black kimono and had her hair tied up. She was as beautiful as a demon, but there was a trace of fierceness about her. She had a mature figure and was hugging a black cat. She was called Cat Demon or Cat, but in legends, it was a black cat with 9 tails. Its ears were large and sharp, and its teeth were double-edged. It was a type of cat demon. It was said that it had 9 tails, 9 lives, and could walk upright. Zhao Fu could not help but feel quite surprised when he saw so many female demons. Last time, when he had attacked Japan, Zhao Fu had only talked with Masanori Hanno and had not entered the Devil City. Now that he had entered, he was quite surprised. He did not know why they were here. Even though it was evident that Tamamo no Mae was trying to seduce Zhao Fu, to Zhao Fu, Masanori Hanno was a friend. If Zhao Fu truly treated someone as a friend, he naturally would not let them down. Chapter 1025. However, just as Zhao Fu turned around, another 10 or so female devils appeared behind him. The leader of the devils was dressed in red and black samurai armor and had 3 samurai swords at her waist. She had long, black hair that fell to her shoulders, and even though she had a smile on her face, her pure black eyes were filled with viciousness. She looked quite heroic, but she was also quite ambitious. Her name was Mama Jiggery. I won't go into too much detail about her, but this lady Mama Jiggery, who was known as the Demon Woman of Takuzan, was even more beautiful than Shitendaji. The young Mama Jiggery's name was Wu Yi, and she came from the 6th heavens Moriji Tian. She tried to rebel, but she was defeated by Wei Mao, who held the demon subduing sword. Mama Jiggery, who wanted to conquer the world, could only hide in the 6 paths of reincarnation. Hundreds of years later, she reappeared as a man, and her new name was Oda Nobunaga. Your Majesty, why are you leaving? Could it be that you look down on us devils? Your Majesty is the Emperor of Qin, a person with supreme power. You should be free and unfettered, and no one should be able to restrain you. Your Majesty, please don't be a hypocritical man, Mama Jiggery said as she smiled and looked at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and did not understand what she meant, and he asked, "Why do you say that?" Mama Jiggery gave a mocking smile as she said, "Those men who say that they only love one woman and say that they are completely devoted to one woman, do they really think that way? Who doesn't want to have as many wives and concubines as there are clouds in the sky? In this world where lust reigns supreme, it isn't just men. Even women have the ability to have many husbands and have countless handsome men." Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded and agreed. That's because that's how the world is right now. How many people truly love each other and remain faithful until death? Most of them only appear in books, and the love described in books is something that people yearn for. However, in reality, things are different because people are creatures with desires. Seeing that Zhao Fu agreed, Mama Jiggery's smile became even brighter. Your Majesty, please don't be a hypocritical man. After all, Your Majesty's harem is massive, and you don't need to care about us devils joining. Hearing this, Zhao Fu lightly laughed. He had never expected her to mean this. At that moment, Mama Jiggery squatted down and stretched out her hands, preparing to take off Zhao Fu's clothes. She looked up and gave a confident smile as she said, "Then, Your Majesty, let me taste you." "Wait, tell me what you want first." "We have something, and there will be many things." Before Mama Jiggery could finish speaking, Zhao Fu cut her off because Zhao Fu was not someone who would harm his country because of his beauty. Seeing that Zhao Fu's attitude was clear, Maple Hunter could only stand up and say, "Your Majesty, Zhao Fu, Zhao Fu," she said, and said, "Devil." And Zhao Fu, Zhao, and said, and said, Fu, and said, and, comma, and said, "First, we want to know how to treat our young lady. It's not good for Your Majesty to keep neglecting her. Second, we devils are quite powerful, and it's not appropriate for your majesty to put us in such a remote place. Third, we want your majesty to create the devil world for us. Hearing Mama Jiggery's words, Masanori Hanno's image appeared in Zhao Fu's mind, and it was quite difficult for him to make a decision. He understood what she wanted about him. Moreover, the Devil City was in Japan's original region, but it was on the border of Great Qin. It was quite far away from Great Qin's center of power, and their intentions were quite clear. They wanted to enter Great Qin's center of power. Zhao Fu did not know what the third devil world was, and he said, "I'll deal with the first and second, but what's the third devil world?" Hearing Zhao Fu's answer, Mama Jiggery smiled and said, "The devil world is a world created by us. Of course, His Majesty is still trying to unify the world, so he can't create the devil world. But your Majesty, you can prepare in advance and give us 10 regions. Our many demons will set up a 10,000 demon barrier and convert all the spiritual chi of heaven and earth into demonic chi. Everything that is in the barrier, be it humans, beasts, birds, insects, flowers, or trees, will become demons." Zhao Fu thought about it and asked, "Tell me about the pros and cons. If possible, I'll support you." Mama Jiggery smiled and nodded, saying, "Your Majesty, the pros are that you can have a devil army. The good thing is that you'll be able to obtain a devil army. This devil army is incredibly bloodthirsty and evil, and it'll become Great Qin's most ferocious army. The bad thing is that the 10 regions will become chaotic and will lose all restrictions." Hearing this, Zhao Fu frowned and said, "You can imagine what it's like inside the 10,000 devil barrier. It's absolutely bloody and dark, just like hell." This was mainly different from Zhao Fu's principles. Zhao Fu could do anything to the outside world, but Zhao Fu was very kind to the inside world of Qin. Although there were only 10 regions in the devil world, in order to develop it, a large number of living creatures must be sent in. Let them kill and devour each other. Only by killing and devouring each other would they be able to nurture a large number of monsters that could fight. Such a monster had almost no morals or humanity to speak of. It was a pure monster, a machine that slaughtered living things. Devils were different from ordinary devils. Devils were generally cultivated by some kind of living creature, and they had the same intelligence as humans, or their bodies were humanoid, but their bloodline was devil race. Devils were the product of mutation, and there were many kinds. Anything, any race, could become a devil under extreme circumstances. For example, if a person kills 1,000 people in a row, the demonic chi will turn them into a man-killer fiend. For example, if a blade is stained with too much blood, the demonic chi will turn it into a demonic blade. Or if a person dies in extreme pain and hatred, they can also turn into a demon. The devil chi was a kind of pure, dark, evil, and distorted power. If it became a devil, it would be an extremely ferocious existence. Would Great Qin need to nurture such a bloody devil army? If some of Qin's enemies were thrown in, they would have great resentment against Qin. Even if they became devils, they would not listen to Qin. Instead, they would take revenge on Qin at all costs. But if he really sent his own people in, Zhao Fu could not bear it, because he cannot be so cruel to his own people. "Your Majesty, why are you here? Also, why are you all here?" A surprised voice sounded out, interrupting Zhao Fu's thoughts. It was Masanori Hanno, who had appeared and looked at the scene before her in confusion. Why are so many female devils with Zhao Fu? Chapter 1026. Hearing this, Masanori Hanno's face became red, and she looked at Zhao Fu, looking quite embarrassed. Zhao Fu came back to his senses and gave a slight smile as he said, "We plan to create a devil corps, and you can be the corps leader. In the future, you can come and go to Qin as you please." Thank you, Your Majesty." A happy smile appeared on Masanori Hanno's face as she bowed to Zhao Fu. In actuality, Masanori Hanno had only felt like an idol, because she had often heard about how mighty Great Qin's legatee was and how he could cause abnormal signs in the heavens and earth. However, after experiencing the legacy trial space's illusion, she started to feel something else. After speaking, Zhao Fu turned to look at Mama Jiggery and said, "We will consider your matter and give you a reply in the future." Mama Jiggery smiled and bowed, and the other female devils smiled as they looked at Masanori Hano meaningfully before leaving. Masanori Hano's face became bright red as she said, "Your Majesty, I'll take you to the city hall." Following this, Zhao Fu went to the city hall and fused the core into it. A powerful aura exploded out as the city core gave off an intense violet light, and the images of countless devils appeared around it. Zhao Fu actually sensed the aura of a universal Denver. This made Zhao Fu feel quite surprised because universal dens were incredibly valuable. Qin had only obtained one after such a long time, and they were incredibly rare and could not be found normally. After asking, Zhao Fu found out that she had stolen the universal den and formed this devil city. The two of them had fused together and could not be separated, and Zhao Fu could not help but bitterly laugh. Back then, if it wasn't for Masanori Hano, Qin would have two universal dens. However, Zhao Fu did not blame Masanori Hano because she had obtained it through her own power, and it was not up to Zhao Fu to decide how to use it. After looking at the Devil Core's information, Zhao Fu turned and said, "Masanori Hano, you must come to Qin more often in the future. With your power, we will do our best to nurture you." As one of the legatees, Masanori Hano's power was something that Zhao Fu had personally seen. As one of the legatees, Zhao Fu had personally seen Masanori Hano's power. She was one of Great Qin's top-tier experts, and he had underestimated her before. Masanori Hano smiled and nodded. Following this, Zhao Fu once again returned to Qin and ordered his people to speed up the expansion of the core and fill the 31 core. He also ordered them to train because Qin was about to launch a large-scale war, and they had to familiarize themselves with the core's abilities. Zhao Fu also gathered his ministers to discuss the devil world. Many ministers were against this, as this would push tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of people into hell and have them kill and devour each other to become terrifying devils. Zhao Fu also gathered his subordinates to discuss the devil world. In actuality, Zhao Fu did not have a penchant for torturing people. Unless they forced Zhao Fu would not do anything too cruel. However, doing this would provide a ferocious army for Qin, and it would be of great help and benefits. Zhao Fu fell into a dilemma and felt a headache coming on. He could only put this matter aside and see if there were any opportunities in the future. Back at Qin, Zhao Fu and his generals gathered around a massive map. Out of the 3 continents, the one with the most powerful defenses was the Western continent. After all, it was the human world's rear, and it was much safer there. Many people from the Southern continent and Midland continent had escaped to the Western continent, and some of them were from the Leaf family. After what had just happened, everyone guessed that Zhao Fu would attack the Western continent first. Zhao Fu indeed wanted to attack the Western continent. Firstly, he wanted to destroy the Leaf family and end everything. Secondly, the Western continent was quite powerful, and he could not allow it to grow. Thirdly, there was a kingdom there, which was Tina Pendragon's British Empire. It was already a level 6 barony kingdom and had a core, and it would cause a lot of trouble. If he allowed it to continue to grow, things would become even more troublesome. Even though Zhao Fu quite admired Tina Pendragon, as she had never fought against Qin or done anything sinister. Even if Zhao Fu did not want to, if he wanted to unify the world, he had to destroy her. Putting everything together, Great Qin's main target was most likely the Western continent. However, the Western continent's defenses were the tightest, and if they attacked, they would suffer the greatest losses. Moreover, if Qin attacked, the other 2 continents would definitely act as well. This was a moment of life and death, so they had to participate. The 3 continents had at least 80,000 city lords, as many of the Southern continent and Midland continent city lords had escaped. They also had billions of soldiers, and if Qin attacked, they could not afford to be careless. If they were not careful, they would suffer massive losses. Moreover, there was an ocean between the continents, so how to cross the ocean and how to attack was a big problem that needed to be discussed in detail. Suddenly, A few system announcements sounded out throughout the human world and dark demon world, causing countless people to look shocked. They had never thought that such a thing would happen at a time like this. Wasn't this adding fuel to the fire? The human world's factions all felt quite terrified. On the other hand, the dark demon world's people's expressions were quite unsightly. A quarter of their world's territory had been conquered by a mysterious faction, and their situation was quite bad. Now that something like this had happened, their situation had become quite difficult. These were the hints that caused the expressions of the people from the two worlds to change greatly. System announcement. A change in fate has occurred, and the heavenly domain boundary between the human world and dark demon world has begun to fuse. Warning. The range of the fusing is becoming larger and stronger. Warning. The fusing is continuously expanding, causing the heavenly domain boundary between the two worlds to disappear, and the passageway between the human world and dark demon world will officially open. Warning. If the passageway between the two worlds is opened, there will be some sort of change. Both sides, please make preparations. Warning. The fusing is accelerating, and the passageway between the two worlds is about to open. Boom! A massive sound rang out throughout the two worlds, and it was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. In front of this sound, countless people felt incredibly small, and their bodies and hearts trembled. At the border between the human world and dark demon world, countless savage cracks spread out, covering thousands of regions. Even from far away, people could see this shocking scene. The horizon was covered by countless massive cracks, and countless traces of demonic chi flowed out from them. The skies seemed to collapse, and the heavens and earth dimmed as a dark aura flowed from the dark demon world into the human world. Everyone felt as if they had fallen into an icy cavern, and their bodies felt incredibly cold. Bang! Bang! Chapter 10:27. As the shards continuously fell, the dark demon world's demonic chi ferociously flowed into the human world. The human world's spirit chi was forced back, and a massive amount of demonic chi caused the beasts and plants in the boundary regions to become demonized. In the end, everything settled down. The two worlds were connected without any obstructions, and one could reach the dark demon world with just a single step. As everyone stared in shock at what had happened, Zhao Fu received system announcements. There were more of them than ordinary people, and he knew exactly what had happened. He could not help but loudly laugh. He had never thought that something like this would happen. This had resolved a big problem for Qin. The following were the system announcements that no one had received. System announcement. The Night Dynasty controlled by Qin has cleared out 1/3 of the Dark Demon World's southern continent and obtained control over these regions. A large amount of the Dark Demon World's fate has flowed into the human world. System announcement. Because of the heavenly domain boundary, a large amount of fate cannot flow in. System announcement. More and more fate has been blocked by the heavenly domain boundary, causing the heavenly domain boundary to change. System announcement. Because Qin's fate has taken control of the human world, it has started to flow into the heavenly domain boundary, causing the heavenly domain boundary to change. System announcement. The two waves of fate have caused the heavenly domain boundary to fuse, and the passage between the two worlds is about to open. System announcement. A large amount of the Dark Demon World's fate has flowed into the human world, and Qin's fate has greatly increased while the Dark Demon World's fate is gradually weakening. At first, Zhao Fu had been worried about how to open the heavenly domain boundary, and he had never thought that it would be resolved so easily. It was as if Zhao Fu had not done anything at all, and it was just the Night Dynasty clearing out the regions. This was because the southern continent of the Dark Demon World was now completely controlled by Great Qin. Because of the Heaven Domain boundary, it was impossible for people and city lords to quickly come and go, nor could they relocate. If something urgent happened, Great Qin would not be able to quickly rush over. Now that there was no heavenly domain boundary, Zhao Fu could truly turn the southern continent into his territory, and he did not have to worry about the other continents in the southern continent. The southern continent's population and city lords could be transferred at will, which was quite convenient. Zhao Fu could put all of the southern continent's population and city lords under Qin. This was especially so for the 20,000 or so city lords and the Night Dynasty's massive army. Zhao Fu could now mobilize them, and now that Qin was about to start the war, their help would be a massive boost. Now that Qin City's military strength and city lords were not much different from the other three continents, Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel a little more confident. Your Majesty, now that such a big change has occurred, we need to discuss this again, Wei Liao said as he smiled and cupped his hands as he understood something from Zhao Fu's smile. Zhao Fu nodded his head with a smile. Now that the southern continent of the Demon Continent had joined the fray, all the plans that he had previously made could be nullified. Everyone continued to discuss. The northern continent was covered by a dark haze, and everyone's expressions were quite serious and quite unsightly. They all had sullen expressions because the fish-scale world had already invaded the southern continent twice, and now it was their turn to do the same. What's more, the other side was the demon race, which was even more powerful than the fish-scale people. No one's expression would be good in such a situation. Back then, the fish-scale world had swept through the southern continent, looking as if they were going to destroy the human world. If it wasn't for Qin forcing the fish-scale world back by himself, the human world might have long since been destroyed. The southern continent's people had all fled, and now that the southern continent had been conquered by Qin, the southern continent's people could only live in other continents and receive strange gazes from the other continents. Now that they were facing the even more powerful demon race, the northern continent's fate might be the same as the southern continent's. Moreover, the human world had already experienced 2 world wars and had suffered great losses. Now that they were facing a 3rd world war, did the human world still have any hope? This was what the northern continent was worried about the most, as this matter was simply too big and too serious. However, there was one thing that they could rejoice about, which was the defensive wall that they had built a long time ago. Back then, Qin's legatee had gone to the other side and told everyone that the other side was the demon race. Under his suggestion, the various factions had built a defensive wall. Because the southern continent had been ferociously invaded, the northern continent had been worried that the demon race would invade, so they had built an especially firm defensive wall and prepared a large number of demon-repellent items. Now, Zhao Fu felt incredibly regretful. He had never thought that things would turn out like this. Back then, because he had been worried about the demon race invading, he had asked the northern continent's factions to build a defensive wall and prepare a large number of demon-repellent items. He had also provided some resources. However, the southern continent of the Dark Demon world was now controlled by Qin, and the defensive wall and demon-repellent items would be used against the southern continent. It could be said that Zhao Fu had dug his own grave. If he had not told them that the other side was the Dark Demon world and had not told them about the Dark Demon world, the northern continent would not have been prepared at all, and the Night Dynasty would have been able to take this opportunity to invade and sweep through the northern continent. Now, it was too late to regret things. However, if he had another chance, Zhao Fu would still have done what he had done. Back then, Zhao Fu did not know that he could control the southern continent of the Dark Demon world. The Dark Demon world was a cultivation world, and their overall strength was greater than that of the human world. Even though Qin had been powerful back then, he had not established a kingdom and did not have many soldiers or regions. If the Dark Demon world had invaded and the human world was not prepared, they would have been destroyed. When that time came, Qin would not have been able to escape the fate of being destroyed. So Zhao Fu would have done what he had done. One of the 8 legatees, Geoffrey, immediately led the northern continent's factions to the defensive wall in case the Dark Demon world attacked. AI, the human world is currently in the middle of a civil war, and now something like this has happened. Even though I haven't personally seen the Dark Demon world's power, just from the demonic Qi invasion, I can see how terrifying the Dark Demon world is. The human world is in danger. What will the human world's fate be? Geoffrey stood on the defensive wall and looked at the demonized land in front of him as he sighed, a look of worry on his face. Seeing this scene, the other people in the northern continent's people's expressions were quite unsightly. With their strength, they did not have any confidence in facing the dark demon world. Many people were incredibly afraid and planned to escape to other continents. What should we do now? Jeffrey was the Northern Continent's world protector, and he was the most powerful person there. Everyone looked at him, waiting to see what he would say. Facing everyone's gazes, Jeffrey slightly sighed and said, "We can only write letters to the other continents. Qin is especially important, and we need to give up on the civil war and unite against the outside world." Chapter 1028. Hearing this, everyone nodded. After all, the dark demon race was an even greater threat than the fish scale people. When facing the fish scale people, they had been unable to defeat them even after allying together. Facing the even more powerful dark demon race, if they could not ally together, they would all die. This was especially so for Qin's side. Without Qin, they did not have any confidence at all. Last time, without Qin, even though they had achieved good results, they had fallen for the fish scale people's trap and had failed. Qin was the strongest line of defense in the human world, and without him, the human world would not be able to survive. Everyone felt the same way about this. Letters were urgently sent to the various factions, and Zhao Fu also received a letter. The letter talks about how dangerous the situation is and how terrifying the dark demon race is. It hopes that Qin can put aside his prejudices for now. The Northern Continent sincerely requests that Qin come. His attitude was incredibly sincere and courteous, but Zhao Fu only smiled. After receiving the letters, everyone's expressions became incredibly serious. They had never thought that such a thing would happen, especially when they were all defending and fighting each other. What do we do now? It was evident that the human world was about to face another world war. The human world was currently in danger, so they did not hesitate and decided to go. After all, the dark demon race was an even greater threat than the fish scale people. With their sturdy defensive walls and many items that could counter demons, they might have a chance. Once the dark demon race broke through their defenses, they would have nothing to defend against. At the same time, they looked at Qin, feeling quite uneasy and uncertain. They were not sure if Qin would come, as Qin had not come last time. If Qin still did not come this time, they could only sigh and be powerless to change Qin's decision. Right now, no one dared to cause trouble. Before, they had tried to slander Qin and cause trouble for Qin in order to slow down his development. However, Qin now had the power to threaten the world. Anyone who dared to say anything would be beaten up by Qin. Moreover, at such a critical moment, if they said anything and caused Qin to not go, then when the dark demon race attacked, they would be the ones to suffer. The dark demon world was also discussing this matter. Mo-Chi was still heavily injured and in closed-door cultivation, so he could not be seen. However, the dark demon world was also holding a meeting. This was because the human world was no longer the weak chicken world that they had thought it was before. This was because their world had Prince Qin, and the Qin Empire was even more terrifying. Just thinking about it made people feel afraid. Back then, 2 world protectors and 10 or so dynasty legatees had used their nation armaments, but they were still unable to defeat that monster. Their world's most powerful expert, Mo-Chi, could only escape with heavy injuries. It could be said that they were quite worried that the humans under Qin's lead would break through the dark demon world, and the dark demon world was not prepared at all. The current situation was giving them a headache. They were threatened by the mysterious force internally, and Qin was in danger externally. However, the only fortunate thing was that the dark demon world's southern continent was connected to the human world, and the southern continent was occupied by a mysterious faction. No one knew if there would be a battle between the two sides, and what everyone wanted to see the most was for the two sides to fight while they cleaned up the mess. Of course, just in case, they had to make preparations in case the dark demon world suddenly attacked and they were caught off guard. In just 3 days, the dark demon race had yet to appear, but demonic qi covered the heavens and earth and flooded towards the defensive walls. The northern continent's people on the defensive walls felt a shocking sense of danger, and their hair stood on end as they cried out in terror. The dark demon race is about to attack. Why haven't the humans come after preparing for so long? The northern continent had 7,000 or so regions, 27,000 or so cities, and 5 billion soldiers. By now, 80% of the city lords and soldiers were gathered on the defensive walls. In the dark demon world's southern continent, Yitsong gave a trace of a smile as he looked at the 2 billion soldiers. There were only 1 billion soldiers in the army, while the other 1 billion were players or independent players. They gave off a terrifying aura that shook the heavens. The ancestor next to him said, "Yitsong, won't it be too difficult for our faction to attack the human world by ourselves? Also, the mysterious faction's people haven't come to help yet. I heard that the human world isn't easy to deal with either. Qin's legatee and the Qin Empire are incredibly powerful, and with our current strength, we most likely won't be able to defeat the Qin Empire." Yitsong smiled and did not reply. After all, he could not say that the person in front of him was Qin's legatee, right? "I naturally know that, and I've long since made preparations. Don't worry." Hearing Yitsong's confident words, the ancestor nodded. He trusted Yitsong quite a bit. Roar, roar, roar. Countless beast roars sounded throughout the sky, causing the weather to change. The ground started to violently tremble, and the people on the defensive walls felt a massive pressure. Countless demonic beasts roared and surged towards the defensive wall like a flood. There were also countless demonic birds in the sky, covering the entire sky as they pounced towards the defensive wall. The scene was extremely shocking. Yitsong had driven away the demon beasts at the border of the southern continent, and there were hundreds of millions of demon beasts. Sensing the humans' auras, the demon beasts all revealed bloodthirsty and cruel gazes. Jeffrey and the other leaders did not look too surprised, and they had already prepared for the worst. Facing the incoming demon beasts, the people on the defensive walls raised their shields, and the countless archers took out arrows covered with talismans. The talismans on the arrows were white talismans that dealt great damage to evil creatures. Swish, swish, swish. Countless arrows brought with them white light as they shot out with immense power. They tore through the air and pierced into the bodies of demon beasts, causing them to howl in pain. The arrows brought with them white light, causing them to feel immense pain. Some of the demon beasts that were hit in their vitals immediately died. Because there were many humans and they had white talismans, the first wave of attacks dealt great damage to the demon beasts, and at least 30% of them died. Just 3 waves of attacks would be enough to deal with these demon beasts. However, Yitsong could not allow this situation to continue, so he attacked from the other side. 20 core formations suddenly leapt towards the defensive walls. Swish, swish, swish. Countless arrows tore through the air as they shot towards the defensive walls, and the humans immediately raised their shields to defend. At that moment, the dark demon world's true advantage was revealed. Chapter 1029. After going into the true world, almost all of the players had Stage 1 cultivation, and most of the players had Stage 2 cultivation. Some of the more powerful players had Stage 3 or Stage 4 cultivation. This was the dark demon world's great advantage. Even though the soldiers on the defensive walls raised their shields to block, they were forced back a few steps by the arrows from the Stage 2 cultivators. If they faced an arrow from a Stage 3 cultivator, they would be sent flying. The defensive formation was immediately broken, and they were unable to protect the soldiers behind them. The Night Dynasty soldiers took this opportunity to shoot out a large number of arrows, and the people on the defensive walls were all hit. They cried out in pain, and there were many casualties. 20 massive creatures rampaged on the defensive walls. A demon crocodile that was hundreds of meters long opened its mouth, turning 1,000 or so people into meat paste in a single bite. A demon sword gave off a powerful demonic light as it quickly flew through the air, killing a large number of people. Another demon cow madly charged forwards, and even with countless shield bearers blocking in front of it, it was completely useless, and they were all sent flying. The losses on this side were quite severe, and the other factions immediately sent reinforcements. At the same time, They found that the main force of the attack was on that side, so they left some people here to kill the demon beasts in case other dark demons attacked. Jeffrey and his city lords hurried over. They were quite shocked as they looked at the black mass of dark demons below. They found that they looked like Asians, and if it wasn't for the demonic chi they gave off, they would have thought that they were Asians. However, there were 2 billion of them, and there were 20,000 or so city lords in the sky. Some of their auras were especially powerful, and the other side had already established a kingdom and had 20 core. The human side was at a great disadvantage. What everyone was worried about was that there were not just these few people in the dark demon world. It was possible that there were more dark demons waiting for an opportunity to deal a fatal blow to the human side. The northern continent could not send out many soldiers, and the situation was quite grim. They could only hope that the other factions could quickly arrive, or else everything would be over. There was no time for them to think too much on the battlefield. Jeffrey had his soldiers counterattack, and had some city lords tie down the core formations before leading the other city lords to attack the Night Dynasty. Yi Tsang held the demon's sword and rushed forwards. Even though Zhao Fu was controlling Yi Tsang, he naturally recognized Jeffrey and had a good impression of him. However, in this sort of situation, Zhao Fu would not hold back and attack Jeffrey with his full strength. Of course, Jeffrey did not dare to be careless, and he held a spear that gave off a blinding white light as he started to fight with Yi Tsang. Terrifying shock waves spread out, and the sounds of fighting were deafening. The smell of blood was incredibly dense, and corpses littered the walls and ground. The battle was incredibly intense, and the northern side was at a disadvantage. This was especially so for their soldiers, who were completely suppressed by the dark demon world side. At that moment, thousands of black-robed demons walked out, holding magic staffs and summoning black fog. The black fog gave off a pure darkness aura, making people feel instinctively afraid. Countless traces of black fog spread towards the defensive walls, covering the soldiers within. Pained cries sounded out as the soldiers were devoured by the black fog, leaving nothing behind. This caused quite a bit of panic. Seeing this, Jeffrey felt that he could not allow things to go on like this, or else the northern continent side would lose. As such, he ordered people to use that terrifying thing. A group of barefoot, white-robed people with solemn expressions and holy auras walked out from the side. The person in the lead carried a glass statue of a man who wore white clothes and had a gentle expression. The person in the lead raised the statue and started to chant scriptures, and the white-robed people behind him also started to chant scriptures. Boom! A powerful aura exploded out, sending out a massive gale. The statue gave off an intense white light before flying into the sky and shattering with a bang, but a massive image appeared. Immediately, a massive might covered the surrounding tens of thousands of kilometers. That figure was 1,000 meters tall and gave off holy light energy. Under its influence, the sky gave off a searing white light that was quite blinding. Sensing this power, Yi Tsang's expression fell. He wanted to stop it, but it was too late. The image stretched out a hand towards the sky, and all of the light in the world seemed to quickly gather. The white light in the sky made it difficult for people to open their eyes. Boom! 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 100 massive rings of light floated out from the white light and quickly landed on the ground. Massive explosions sounded out, and the ground continuously trembled. After everything settled, 100 massive black circles appeared on the ground. These circles were dozens of meters deep, and some of them were scorched black as if they had been incinerated by a massive fire. There were charred corpses all around them, and this attack had caused the Night Dynasty to lose roughly 10 million soldiers. As for the statue in the sky, after unleashing this terrifying attack, it slowly disappeared and the sky returned to normal. Seeing so many people die, Yi Tsang was infuriated and attacked Jeffrey with all of his strength. Black sword lights flew out, and Jeffrey defended with great difficulty, feeling quite shocked at Yi Tsang's power. On the other side, some people from the Night dynasty walked over to the corpses of the demon beasts that the northern side had killed and started to activate magic formations. A formless energy sucked away all of the blood, and the demon beasts' corpses withered. The demons formed from blood gave ear-piercing cries and rushed towards the defensive walls. There were not many blood-red demons, only a few million of them, but they were able to easily climb up the walls. The arrows that were shot at them would pass through their bodies without any effect. The arrows that were imbued with the white talismans only had a weak effect. Most of the northern side's army had gathered on the other side to fight with the Night Dynasty. There were not many soldiers left on this side, and they did not know how to deal with these demons. Soon, the blood-red demons climbed up the defensive walls and started to fight with the northern side soldiers. However, these demons were incredibly difficult to deal with and did not fear physical attacks at all. Even though the northern side soldiers were trying to think of ways to deal with them, they were continuously being killed by the demons, and their blood was sucked dry. The battle at the front lines was incredibly intense, and people continuously died. The northern continent side was already at a disadvantage, and there was only a single group of dark demons attacking. More dark demons had yet to arrive. After hearing about the situation at the front lines, all of the northern continent's people's expressions became quite unsightly, and a wave of terror spread. The people in charge of receiving the various factions felt incredibly anxious because after waiting for so long, not a single person had come. Chapter 10:30. It was a moment of life and death, and seeing that no one had come, the people responsible for receiving them felt incredibly angry and anxious. Back when the southern continent had invaded, the northern continent had contributed greatly so that if they were invaded in the future, there would be people coming to help. Now that things had turned out like this, anyone would be angry. However, the northern continent was in a crisis, and the people responsible for receiving them could only send people to various factions to ask them to help the northern continent. Over at the other side, the continents had been prepared to go to the northern continent through teleportation channels. After all, how could a northern continent defend against the demon race by itself? If the northern continent was conquered, they would all die. As such, they had to go and support the northern continent. However, just as they were about to go, they found that they could not use teleportation channels. What had happened? Countless people looked incredibly confused. Following this, someone came to report that the path to the northern continent had been cut off. Someone had set up an isolation zone between the continents, making it impossible to use teleportation channels to go to the northern continent. That isolation zone had been set up temporarily, and it would take some time to destroy it. This caused countless people to feel incredibly shocked. How could it be like this? If they could not go to the northern continent in time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Just who did this? Did a traitor appear in the human world? Just who was it? How could they do such a stupid thing? This would destroy the entire human world. Even though it was only temporary, ordinary people would not be able to set up isolation zones between the continents. Only some top-tier factions would be able to do this. Some people said that it was Qin who had done all of this. However, if it was Qin who had done this, what was his purpose? The demon race was currently invading the human world, and it would not be good for Qin to stop them. Could it be that Qin wanted the demon race to destroy the northern continent and then fight against the demon race by himself to occupy the northern continent? However, this did not make sense, as there was no need for Qin to stop them from going to the northern continent. After all, they would suffer great losses if they went to fight against the demon race, which would be beneficial to Qin. As such, they should be allowed to go. Even though Qin was quite suspicious, he did not seem to be the culprit, and no one knew who would do such a thing. However, the most important thing right now was to rush to the northern continent. As such, the various factions did not hesitate and gave the order to destroy the Void Zone as quickly as possible so that they could reinforce the northern continent. On the other side, the people from the northern continent also knew about the isolation zones, and they were in a panic. They didn't know who did this, but they were faced with a problem. No one would come to help the northern continent. Once the Devil Race sent a few more troops to attack, the northern continent would definitely not be safe, and these people might die at the hands of the devil race. This news caused the northern continent's people to fall into chaos and panic. Now that there was a void belt, they could not escape at all. However, after a while, a surprising piece of news spread. Qin was the first to break through the isolation belt and come to the northern continent. He was ready to resist the devils together with the people of the northern continent. After this news spread, countless people could not help but cheer. With Qin coming to help them, they felt a massive reassurance. With how powerful Qin was, their chances of resisting the demon race would be increased by many times, and they felt much more confident. It was said that even Qin's legatee had personally come with a large number of city lords and soldiers. With Qin there, who would dare to attack the human world? That would simply be seeking death. It would be best if they could do what they had done with the fish scale world, chase them back to their homes, and have them compensate with money, land, and women. Then, would they still dare to attack the human world? Qin is mighty. With Qin here, there's nothing to fear. Qin has brought glory to the human race. Let's welcome Qin to defend against the demon race's invasion. Seeing Qin's legatee personally bring people over, the people in charge of receiving the various factions felt as if they were grasping at straws. They excitedly went up and said, "This lowly one never thought that His Majesty Qin would personally come. We are truly grateful. Everyone in the northern continent will be grateful to you." The people around them all nodded in agreement. That's right. As expected, Qin is a righteous person and has put aside his prejudices to unite against the outside world. I also feel that I wronged Qin in the past. I never thought that Qin would be so good. I apologize for my wrongdoings in the past. For great Qin to help us like this, we must remember this in the future and show our gratitude. After all, great Qin saved our lives. That's right, with Qin, the most powerful existence in the human world, we don't have to fear anyone. Qin is mighty. Qin is invincible. Long live Qin. Looking at these people, a trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he said, "Everyone, there's no need to say any more. Qin is also a part of the human race. If the northern continent is in trouble, Qin will definitely help. This time, Qin will definitely resist the demon race's invasion. With Qin here, we will never allow the demon race to take a single step into the human world. I, Qin, will prove to the other worlds that humans are the most powerful." Countless people immediately cheered and applauded Zhao Fu's impassioned words, and their blood heated up. Looking at their majesty, Dok's face twitched as he suppressed his emotions. Since he was in the group, it was not very obvious. The person who had received the northern continent cautiously said, "His Majesty Qin, the situation at the front lines is not good. The situation at the front is not good. The demons have used many evil methods. The northern continent has already suffered great losses. We should hurry over as soon as possible." Hearing this, Zhao Fu made a hand gesture and said to the person who had received the northern continent, "Didn't the northern continent prepare many things to restrain the demon race? Why is the situation at the front lines still not good?" The person who had come to receive them did not notice Zhao Fu's actions and replied honestly, "It's mainly because that demon race is too powerful. If it wasn't for the fact that we made all sorts of preparations, our northern side would have long since been defeated and would not have been able to last for so long." Zhao Fu nodded as he said, "So that's how it is. How many of you have gone to support the northern continent?" The person who had received the northern continent's orders gave a vague answer. He only said that most of them had gone and asked Qin to go to support the northern continent as soon as possible. After receiving Zhao Fu's order, Qin's generals started to prepare. The person who had received the northern continent's reinforcements immediately felt that something was wrong and had a bad feeling, so he gave a vague answer. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Don't worry. In the future, the northern continent will be protected by Qin, and the demon race will be resisted by Qin." Chapter 1031. The person's smile froze as he said, "What do you mean by this, Your Majesty Qin?" "The dark demon race is currently invading the human world." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "As such, in the future, The northern continent will submit to Qin and will naturally be protected by Qin. You will not have to worry and can live peacefully. Qin will repel the dark demon race. Now that he had made things clear, the northern continent's people's expressions became quite unsightly. They had never thought that Qin would attack while the dark demon race was still invading. They inwardly cursed. Qin is simply too despicable and is taking advantage of the dark demon race. Does Qin think that he can resist the dark demon race by himself? He's too arrogant. If Qin does not have the power to defend against the dark demon race and takes this opportunity to attack the northern continent, causing the front lines to collapse, Qin will be the greatest sinner of the human world. Now, the various continents had constructed defensive walls and set up isolation barriers, turning the continents into a tough iron bucket. It would take Qin a lot of effort to attack them. The dark demon race was invading the northern continent, and the northern continent could not defend at all. As such, they needed other factions to enter. If Qin did not take this opportunity to enter, he would be too stupid. This was the reason why the Night Dynasty had started to invade the battlefield. The isolation barriers around the continents had also been set up by Qin. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the northern continent's city lords and soldiers instantly turned and planned to run. However, Qin's countless city lords and soldiers were already prepared and immediately attacked, yelling, "Those who surrender to Qin will not be killed." There were only 10,000 or so people here, while Qin had tens of thousands of city lords and billions of soldiers. In front of this apocalyptic flood, they were only able to run a few steps before their legs became weak and they knelt on the ground, yelling, "I surrender." Of course, there were some people who did not want to surrender and desperately try to run, but a few sword lights slashed out, instantly turning them into piles of dismembered corpses. Roar! Roar! Zhao Fu waved his hand, and countless rings flew out. Wyverns gave off massive dragon roars that shook the surrounding thousands of kilometers. The massive dragons might cause the entire region to fall silent, and not a single creature dared to make sound. Roar! Another 8 beast roars pierced through the sky. 8 terrifying auras spread out like a superstorm, causing the sky to change color. Countless wyverns danced in the sky, and the 8 aquatic beast kings were released. Their auras were even more powerful than before. Not only had they fought alongside Qin, but they had also attacked the cities and devoured the city cores. Some of the city cores had been devoured by them, and they had digested them into their own power. That was why they had become stronger and stronger. Zhao Fu knew about this, but he didn't say anything. It was just a reward for their outstanding performance. The stronger they were, the more helpful it would be for Qin. Tens of thousands of city lords, billions of soldiers, countless wyverns, and 8 aquatic beast kings gave off an incredibly terrifying aura. It was like a world-destroying tsunami that seemed to have the power to destroy the entire northern continent. However, this tsunami had stopped, and Zhao Fu stood at the front of the army and raised a hand before waving it, giving the order to attack. Only now did this world-destroying tsunami reveal its true might. Countless wyverns flapped their wings and flew forwards, and the 8 aquatic beast kings gave off terrifying auras as they charged forwards. Tens of thousands of city lords turned into rays of light and shot towards the horizon, and the last 1 billion or so soldiers also charged. This massive and shocking aura was like a world-destroying tsunami crashing down on the northern continent. The terrifying aura swept out in all directions, and no one could stop it. Before, countless people had been happy that Qin had come to defend against the dark demon race, and they had been waiting for Qin to go to the front lines and use his might to repel the dark demon race. That way, the human world would once again be at peace. However, they had never thought that before Qin could repel the dark demon race, Qin would face off against them. Before countless people could react, they had either been killed or knelt on the ground, submitting in terror. Regions were instantly conquered by Qin, and countless people fled in panic. News of Qin attacking the northern continent quickly spread. What? Qin isn't going to defend against the dark demon race and is attacking us? After hearing about this, Countless people felt incredibly terrified. They had never thought that Qin would be so shameless and hypocritical. He had said that he would help them defend against the dark demon race, but he had taken the opportunity to attack and conquer the northern continent. Was that Qin an idiot? The front lines were already at a great disadvantage against the dark demon race, and they were about to be breached by the dark demon race. The human world was about to face a catastrophe, yet they were not united against the outside world and were instead fighting amongst themselves. Wasn't that harming the entire human world? Moreover, Qin's attacks would cause the front lines to collapse. The northern continent would not be able to defend anymore, and the dark demon race would definitely break through. The northern continent was now doomed. The entire northern continent fell into chaos, and countless people started to run for their lives, escaping from the northern continent. On the front lines, Jeffrey's expression was quite unsightly. A gash had appeared on his body, and blood dyed his clothes. Opposite him, Yitsong coldly laughed and continued to ferociously attack. Rays of black matter were like massive mouths that bit towards Jeffrey. The situation on the battlefield below was also quite unfavorable. The dark demon race relied on their high-grade cultivation to ferociously attack the northern continent. On the other side of the battlefield, the strange blood demons had already broken through. However, the blood demons had almost all been killed, as the northern continent had used some sort of method to summon a group of angels. Most of these angels were two-winged angels, but they controlled holy light energy, which was incredibly harmful to the dark demon race. The Night Dynasty also used a blood sacrifice, summoning a group of large demons, and they were able to destroy the angels that the northern continent had summoned. The Night Dynasty had used up almost all of their methods, but the northern continent was still at a great disadvantage. They were being suppressed by the dark demon world side, and a portion of the Night Dynasty's army had already started to attack the city walls, planning to use that as a breakthrough point. If they broke through, they would be able to scale the city walls, and the northern continent would be caught in a pincer attack. When that time came, the northern continent would lose. We have to stop the dark demon race, Jeffrey thought to himself. However, something that shocked him happened. The city lords fighting in the sky suddenly lost their strength and fell to the ground, and the stats on the soldiers disappeared. What was going on? Chapter 1032. As the city lords and soldiers lost their power, the northern continent's factions suffered a heavy blow and were unable to withstand the Night Dynasty's ferocious attacks. The number of casualties rapidly increased, and the northern continent's morale plummeted. The Night Dynasty's attacks became even more ferocious, and it seemed that the northern continent was about to lose. Just what is going on? Why aren't there any reinforcements? Could it be that those people are just going to watch as the northern continent is destroyed? Is Qin not willing to act at such a critical time? Don't they understand that the demon race's invasion is not good for anyone? A loud cry sounded out, making everything clear. Things are bad. Qin has started to attack the northern continent from behind, and countless regions have been conquered by Qin. The northern continent is in chaos, and countless people have started to run. Hearing this, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. They had been desperately defending against the demon race's invasion, and they had never thought that someone would stab them in the back. What's more, it was not an ordinary faction, but the most terrifying faction in the human world, the Qin Empire. 80% of their forces had been gathered at the front lines, and most of them had died. They were unable to defend against the ferocious Qin Empire at all. Qin was actually so shameless and despicable, taking advantage of the situation. Everyone understood that the northern continent was most likely finished. Now, they were not a match for the demon race, and Qin was stabbing them in the back, greatly reducing their battle strength. They were unable to defend against the demon race at all, and if they stayed here, they would all be wiped out. Run! Even without Jeffrey's order, the various leaders immediately led their people and ran without even looking back. The northern continent's army completely collapsed, and countless people ran in terror while the Night Dynasty gave the order to chase after them. Behind them, Qin was like a black flood that flooded in all directions. Regions were quickly inundated, and there were no obstructions at all. Rumble. A group of black-armored Qin cavalrymen easily broke through a city and shouted, "Those who surrender will not be killed." Following this, a group of people charged in and swung their weapons, killing those who tried to escape or resist. Blood flew everywhere, and the scene was incredibly chaotic. Cries and cries continuously sounded out. Most of the people in the northern continent were Westerners, and there were some Aborigines. The Aborigines did not put up much of a resistance, but the rest of the people resisted fiercely, especially the United States, which had the slogan of freedom and democracy. Right now, this group was attacking their city. This place was not very suitable for a feudal system, and there were almost no dynasties here. Instead, it was dominated by individual factions, each doing their own thing. In the face of Qin's feudal and imperialist country, they resisted fiercely. There was a group of well-built men holding large sabers, axes, and spears, and they charged out naked. They looked quite terrifying because Westerners were slightly larger than Easterners, and the leader of the group yelled, "Yellow-skinned monkeys, go back to your continent." Then, he led the others and rushed over, shouting. Qin's soldiers were expressionless. The captain of the cavalry didn't say anything. He was the first to charge. He squeezed his horse's legs and dashed forward like a dark shadow. The other cavalrymen followed him and dashed forward quickly. After a round and back, only corpses were left on the ground. Kill. His Majesty has ordered that anyone who doesn't surrender will be killed. The captain of the cavalry gave the order and continued to gallop forward on his horse. The other cavalrymen followed behind him, waving their sabers and killing those who didn't surrender. The cavalry took the lead and killed the other side's morale, causing the city to fall into chaos. Following this, the infantrymen charged in and started to kill those who didn't surrender. A few teams of Qin's shield-bearers worked together and forced thousands of people into a corner. The archers at the back started to shoot at those people, making it impossible for them to escape. They could only try to break out of the encirclement, but they were fiercely blocked by Qin's shield-bearers. In the end, they were either shot to death or hacked to death, leaving corpses all over the ground. After killing these people, Qin's soldiers continued to attack others. No matter if they were men, women, old, or young, they would all be killed if they didn't surrender. The smell of blood spread throughout the entire city, and everyone was immersed in fear. The cold killing caused their bodies to feel icy cold, and they trembled. In the face of such bloody killing, democracy and freedom were no longer important. Survival was the most important thing, and everyone knelt on the ground, not daring to say anything or do anything. It was hard to imagine that the Westerners, who had caused chaos in the modern world, were all kneeling at the feet of Eastern people. Their faces were filled with fear, and they didn't dare to resist at all. Following this, the people who had surrendered were gathered at the center of the city. A young man wearing a mage's robe gave a faint smile as he walked over and pointed at a tall, snow-white Western woman with flaxen hair and snow-white skin. He said, "She is quite a bit of Phoenix she and can be taken back to serve His Majesty." A few soldiers immediately walked into the crowd and dragged the Western woman out, and she didn't know what was going on. A few soldiers immediately walked into the crowd and dragged the Western woman out, and she didn't know what was going on. She was quite good-looking, and she was afraid that the soldiers would try to rape her, so she immediately started to struggle and cry, "Save me. Please spare me. This is my first time. Qin shouldn't treat prisoners like this." The other Westerners also thought that the soldiers were trying to rape the Western woman, as this was quite common on battlefields. Whether it was in the real world or the Heaven Awakened world, some people had even done such things when attacking other factions. Before the chaotic world, they had been princesses that were loved by everyone. If they wanted anything, there would be men who would prepare it for them, and they lived luxurious lives. All of this was because of their beauty, and it was because of their beauty that they had been reduced to such a state. Following this, the young man in the mage's robe pointed at a few women who had tried to use dirt to cover their faces, and they were dragged out. The women couldn't help but start to cry, and the other Westerners lowered their heads. They were furious but didn't dare to say anything, as they were afraid of the cold sabers in Qin's soldiers' hands. The sabers were still covered with blood, and the blood dripped down. Now, it was hard to say whether or not they could keep their lives, so how could they care about such things? The remaining women in the crowd all lowered their heads in fear, not daring to move at all. They were afraid that the young man in the mage's robe would point at them, and whoever he pointed at would suffer. Chapter 1033. A golden-haired woman hurriedly stood in front of the young girl and knelt as she begged, "Please spare my daughter. You could take revenge on me." This golden-haired beauty was extremely beautiful, and her figure was also very mature. Her large breasts were clearly visible, and many people couldn't help but cry out when they saw this beauty. It was as if she was a popular singer in the past. A trace of a smile appeared on the young man's face as he said, "Bring her back then. Even though she doesn't have much phoenix chi, perhaps His Majesty will like her more. If we can capture a woman that His Majesty likes, we'll all be rewarded with military merits." Hearing this, all of the soldiers looked delighted, and a few more soldiers went up and dragged the mother and daughter out. The beautiful woman had never thought that not only would she not be able to save her daughter, but she would also be dragged into this. Seeing the smiles on Qin's soldiers' faces, she could only kneel on the ground and cry as she begged. The young man walked over and cut them off in English as he said, "You're going to serve His Majesty Qin. This is an incredibly good thing. Stop crying." Hearing this, the women let out a sigh of relief, and some of their sadness turned into joy. They were quite willing to serve such a peak-level figure, and because of the unimaginable benefits, they were willing to give up their bodies. Now that the northern continent was quite weak, and they only had 20% of their forces left, how could they stop Qin? With Qin's strength, even if they were at their peak, they would not have been able to do so. Qin continuously conquered regions, and the northern continent's army retreated. Seeing Geoffrey escape, Yizong did not chase after him and started to conquer some regions at the border. Zhao Fu had already conquered the region where the Vatican was, and they were only one step away from relocating the city creation stone. Zhao Fu was currently waiting for Geoffrey to return. The Vatican here was the Protestant Church, which had split off from the Roman Church. Its history could be traced back to the Renaissance era, and the birth of the Magnesia Kingdom was largely due to the Protestant Church. The situation in the northern continent was now under Qin's control, and Zhao Fu had given Geoffrey a chance to surrender because of their previous friendship. As one of the 8 legatees, Geoffrey was naturally very powerful and would be of great help to Qin. Otherwise, Zhao Fu would directly attack the church and control Yizong to kill him. After a while, Geoffrey brought his people back to the church. Seeing the scene in front of him, his heart sank, and his face became ashen. Looking at Zhao Fu waiting for him, he instantly understood what Zhao Fu had meant. "What's your decision?" Zhao Fu looked at Geoffrey and did not beat around the bush as he directly asked. Now, Geoffrey was quite angry. The devil race had invaded, but Qin had stabbed them in the back, causing the frontline troops to collapse. Now, the devil race had entered the human world. He had seen the power of the devil race with his own eyes. The human world was most likely in danger this time, and he could tell that the devil race had not used their full strength yet. The northern continent was already having a hard time resisting them. Qin had basically released the devil race into the human world, and billions of humans would suffer. This made Geoffrey, who had a good personality, very angry. "Son of God, we can't submit to Qin. We suffered heavy losses this time, all because of Qin's despicable and shameless actions. Son of God, I also think that we can't submit to Qin. His actions are so bloody and cruel, which is the complete opposite of our church. He is evil and dark. How can we submit to darkness? Son of God, we would rather be destroyed with the church than submit to Qin. Son of God, may the light be with us. Let us use the last light of our lives to purify Qin's sins." 24 foreign women dressed in white robes and giving off powerful holy light auras appeared next to Geoffrey. These women were all extremely beautiful and had graceful figures. They were definitely women who had been handpicked from tens of thousands of people. As soon as they appeared, they all tried to persuade Geoffrey. What they meant was that they would rather die than submit to Qin, and they said that Qin was evil and despicable. If they had said this in private, it would have been fine. However, they dared to say this in front of Zhao Fu. No one had the guts to do so. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of countless chains rang out, causing Jeffrey's expression to fall. Before he could react, countless chains shot out from the air, shooting towards the women in white with terrifying force. Seeing that the women's bodies were about to be pierced by the chains, Jeffrey hurriedly said, "Wait, don't kill them." Zhao Fu was expressionless as he waved his hand, and the countless chains spun and bound up the women. Facing Zhao Fu's terrifying power, they could not resist at all. No matter how much they struggled, they could not break free at all. "What do you think? We've already treated you quite well, and we're willing to wait for you. If it were someone else, we would have killed them long ago. This is the last time we'll talk," Zhao Fu said as he looked at Jeffrey with his terrifying eyes. If Jeffrey was unwilling, Zhao Fu would immediately give the order to wipe out the church and kill everyone in the church. Jeffrey sighed and said, "Emperor Qin, if I submit to you, will you be able to defend against the demon race's invasion?" Zhao Fu thought to himself. The demon race's invasion had been started by him, so he could do whatever he wanted. There was no need to defend at all. Zhao Fu would not tell him about this, so he only nodded and said, "Since we did this, we naturally have the ability to deal with the demon race. You don't need to worry." Jeffrey relaxed. In actuality, he had already guessed it, but he was not sure. "All right, I'm willing to submit to Qin, but please respect our position. We won't help Qin casually kill other factions, but we will also work hard for Qin's unification." The women tied up and hanging in the air hurriedly said, "Holy Sun, don't submit to Qin." Arg! Cries of pain sounded out as the chains around them tightened, causing the women to feel immense pain. Jeffrey hurriedly said, "All right, Your Majesty Qin, I've decided to submit. I won't change my mind." A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face, and he waved his hand, releasing the women. Now that he had subdued Jeffrey, he would most likely have to face the people from the other two continents. After so long, it was possible that they had already broken through the void zone. Chapter 10:34. The women's expressions were still quite dim, but their moods gradually became better. Jeffrey was the holy son of the church, and everything was decided by him. Since he had made a decision, they could only follow his lead and submit to Qin. However, they really did not like Qin's bloody and cruel ways of doing things. It was the complete opposite of the light and kindness they believed in. Their only hope was that things would be better on the inside. However, in the next moment, Jeffrey's words caused their faces to pale. Jeffrey said, "Your Majesty, now use them to serve you." They were originally holy daughters of the church to worship a godly spirit, but now they should serve the ruler of the empire. After saying this, Jeffrey inwardly sighed. Every time Qin conquered a faction, he would take all of the women. It was better to offer them up than to be taken. That way, Great Qin's legatee would take care of them for his sake and not punish them for their disrespect. Everyone knew what kind of person Prince Qin was. Some people might slander him, and Prince Qin himself was extraordinary and outstanding. However, no one would be wrong in terms of his licentious ways. Moreover, he understood Qin's philosophy. In Qin's mind, the ruler of the empire was the supreme existence, and godly spirits, beliefs, and thoughts were all behind him. Zhao Fu felt quite startled. He had never thought that Jeffrey would say such a thing. However, the situation was quite urgent, and Zhao Fu did not have the time to care about such things, so he refused and said, "No need." Jeffrey felt quite surprised and said, "Why, Your Majesty? They are women who were handpicked from the northern continent. Whether it is their looks, figures, or knowledge, they're all outstanding, and they all have divine constitutions." The women's faces became pale, and they looked at Zhao Fu with a trace of reluctance. They had never thought that they would have to serve this demon-like Prince Qin in the future. Zhao Fu said calmly, "We understand. We'll talk about this in the future. Right now, You and we need to hurry to the coastal area and defend against the people from the other two continents." Geoffrey looked quite confused and asked, "Shouldn't your majesty be defending against the demon race? Why are you here to defend against the humans?" Zhao Fu smiled mysteriously and said, "You will know in the future." Following this, Zhao Fu turned into a ray of light and disappeared over the horizon. Even though Geoffrey didn't understand what had happened, he still followed Zhao Fu towards the coastal region. The people from the other continents also broke through the void zones, and countless northern continent people escaped. Everyone's expressions were quite unsightly because it was evident that the northern continent had been conquered. "I'm too late." Everyone cursed in their hearts as they cursed at the person who laid down the isolation belt. This person wanted to bring harm to the entire human world. Thinking about the appearance of the devil race's invasion, everyone felt terrified. The northern continent was definitely going to fall. Even if they rushed over now, it wouldn't be very effective. Now, only Qin had the ability to change all this. She didn't know if Qin had arrived. If they had him, then humanity would still have a sliver of hope. That was what everyone thought at first, but when they asked for the details of the fugitives, they understood in shock. It's not that the devil race conquered the northern continent, but that Qin took advantage of the situation and invaded the northern continent. The northern army that was originally responsible for defending the front line has collapsed, and the devil race has also invaded the human world. Now the northern continent is in chaos, and no one knows what will happen next. At this moment, everyone understood that the isolation belt was laid down by Qin. They couldn't help but curse in their hearts. Despicable and shameless. Qin launched an operation to conquer the northern continent when the devil race invaded. Were they really not worried about the devil race? Qin was certainly not stupid. He must have a way to deal with the devil race, which was why he dared to do such a thing. Then what should they do now? Continue to support them? Or stab Qin in the back and let Qin and the devil race fight to the death? Many leaders gathered together and quickly discussed. They definitely couldn't go to support them now because Qin had done such a despicable and shameless thing. If they went there, they might also be killed by Qin. On the other hand, stabbing Qin in the back was not a bad idea. They could use the devil race to heavily injure Qin, which would make their situation much safer. However, they were also somewhat worried. What if Qin couldn't stop the devil race? After a detailed discussion, they decided to stab Qin in the back. Qin had brought a large number of soldiers and was so confident that they believed that Qin would be able to stop them. As such, this was a great opportunity to heavily injure Qin. Secondly, since Qin had stabbed Qin in the back, they would return the favor. There was nothing wrong with this. In the end, many of the people who had gone to support decided to band together and go to Qin's back to deal a heavy blow to Qin. Seeing this, Tina Pendragon shook her head and sighed. She didn't plan to participate, but she could guess what would happen. She took her people back to the Western continent and ordered them to strengthen the Western continent's defenses and take in the people from the Northern continent who had escaped. Now that the Northern continent had been conquered by Qin, Qin's strength had rapidly increased, and he was so powerful that it was suffocating. Qin was the only kingdom that even Tina Pendragon feared. Everyone looked incredibly excited, thinking about how Qin and the devil race were fighting. They would stab Qin in the back and deal a heavy blow to Qin in one fell swoop. However, when they arrived, they looked incredibly confused. We found that Qin has sent a large number of soldiers and is waiting for them here. What's going on? Isn't Qin going to defend against the devil race? He's letting the devil race invade the northern continent and not harming Qin? Everyone didn't understand what was going on, but their first thought was to run. Now that Qin was waiting for them, they wouldn't be able to sneak attack Qin. If they didn't run now and Qin attacked, they would immediately suffer heavy casualties. The people who had gathered noisily dispersed and fled in all directions. Seeing this, Zhao Fu smiled and did not continue to chase after them. Right now, defending the northern continent was the most important thing. Geoffrey still didn't know what was going on and was worried about the devil race. After fighting with the devil race, he knew how powerful the devil race was. The devil race was a cultivation world, and not only were they powerful, but they also had many tricks up their sleeves. "Your Majesty, aren't you going to defend against the devil race?" Geoffrey couldn't help but ask. Zhao Fu turned to look at him and lightly laughed. He did not say anything and took him to the border of the northern continent. He saw that countless devil race people had already retreated to the demon world, causing Geoffrey to feel incredibly shocked. Chapter 1035. Now, Geoffrey's mind was in chaos, and he could not understand what had happened. He suddenly thought about how Zhao Fu had been calm this entire time and did not seem to care about the demon race's invasion at all. Only then did Geoffrey understand. Zhao Fu had the ability to travel between worlds, so he definitely had made some sort of deal with the demon race. They had put on a show of the demon race's invasion together, and they had all been tricked by Qin. Thinking about that, Geoffrey felt quite dispirited. His worries had been for nothing, and he had nothing to say about Great Qin's methods. In the future, he just wanted to obediently stay in the church and develop his own church. Of course, now that the Vatican had joined Qin, Qin would be the leader. Just like the 100 schools of thought, they would encourage all sorts of ideologies and allow them to continuously clash and evolve. Only then would they be able to maintain their vitality. At the same time, they had to be loyal to Zhao Fu, or else how could Qin allow things that were detrimental to Qin to exist? A few days later, Qin completely controlled the northern continent and set up a defensive line. It was now impossible for anyone to escape from the northern continent, and those who stayed behind would either die or submit to Qin. There was no longer any neutral option. Following this, news spread that Qin and the demon race had signed a contract of non-aggression for 10 years. The human world once again welcomed peace, and the threat of the demon race's invasion was eliminated. The ordinary people were quite happy because they did not have to worry about the demon race attacking, and their safety was guaranteed. Moreover, the threat of the fish scale world and dark demon world had been eliminated, and it seemed that there would not be any more invasions in the future. The only possibility was that the Eastern Archipelago would have to face the previous world, but that would only happen after the heavenly domain boundary completely disappeared. The two remaining continents were quite surprised. They had never thought that Qin would be able to resolve the demon race's invasion so easily. They had no idea what sort of deal they had made for the demon race to invade, but they had obediently retreated. Some people smelled the scent of a scheme and said that Great Qin definitely had some shameful deal with the dark demon race. Perhaps Great Qin had purposely opened the passageway to allow the dark demon race to attack the northern side's factions so that Great Qin could take advantage of them and conquer the northern side's continent. Otherwise, it would be impossible to explain how Great Qin could deal with the dark demon race so easily. The mastermind behind all of this was Great Qin, and now that the northern continent has been conquered, Great Qin's ambitions can no longer be hidden. We must take back the northern continent. Now, the northern continent had not been completely controlled by Qin, and there were still many hidden dangers inside. All parties must seize the opportunity. Otherwise, when Qin completely stabilized the northern continent, they would be in trouble. Because at that time, Qin occupied 3 continents, and one of them was the largest continent, Middle-earth. The area of the 3 continents was far larger than theirs. At that time, the power of Qin was something that the remaining 2 continents could not resist. As such, the 2 sides launched a few probing attacks against the northern continent. However, Zhao Fu did not mind, and he used the defensive measures that the northern continent had set up to defend against Qin to stop those people outside and speed up the process of digesting the northern continent. Seeing that they could not gain any benefits, these people naturally retreated. However, they had probing attacks against the southern continent and Middle-earth continent, but they found that the losses were too great, so they could only retreat. Now, their expressions were quite unsightly. The human world no longer had any power to stop Qin. Qin now had the power to unify the world, and the 2 continents were powerless to change the situation. In the end, they could only struggle at death's door. The dark demon world was quite surprised by this. They had been waiting for the 2 sides to fight, but they had never thought that the 2 sides would not fight and would instead make peace. They had waited for so long not to see this scene. They did not know what the mysterious faction was thinking. They had resolved this matter so easily and even signed a 10-year non-aggression treaty. In that case, they would not be able to fight for the next 10 years. This made them feel quite disappointed. At the same time, some people wondered if it was because the Qin Empire was so terrifying that even the mysterious faction feared it. Otherwise, why would they make peace so easily and sign a 10-year treaty? They did not know much about the situation in the human world, and they could not enter for now because of the dark demon world's southern continent. Of course, their interest in the human world did not decrease, and they sent out spies to try to obtain information about the human world. The news of the peace treaty was spread by Zhao Fu, and of course, it was fake. Zhao Fu had just found an excuse to resolve the matter of the dark demon world's invasion. He had never thought that the other sides would have such guesses. Now, the relationship between the Night Dynasty and Qin could not be exposed, as the consequences would be quite severe. The three remaining continents in the dark demon world would no longer fear the mysterious faction and would attack ferociously. The human world would also take this opportunity to attack Qin, and Qin would have to face attacks from two sides. This was especially so for the dark demon world, which Zhao Fu was quite wary of. Luckily, the Night Dynasty had signed a treaty with the fish scale world, or else once the dark demon world attacked, the human world and Yu Xian's world would also attack. With Qin's current situation, it would be quite difficult to deal with a three-way attack. Before the human world was unified, the relationship between Qin and the Night Dynasty would naturally not be exposed. Now that they had devoured an entire continent, the first thing they had to do was to keep a low profile in order to avoid causing unnecessary trouble and slowing down their development. Now, it was time for the most exciting thing, which was to calculate the results of the battle. Qin had taken advantage of the situation to quickly conquer the northern continent while suffering fewer losses. On the other hand, the Night Dynasty had suffered more losses as they were going to directly fight with the northern continent. The northern continent had prepared many things to counter demons, so it was impossible for the Night Dynasty to suffer small losses this time. However, Zhao Fu had given the Night Dynasty a large amount of money and resources to appease the Night Dynasty. Otherwise, after losing so many people without any gains, no one would be willing to accept this, and they would be able to resolve some suspicions. This time, Great Qin had obtained another 20,000 cities and 8 billion people. Great Qin had once again swallowed a big piece of meat, causing its stomach to bulge. If he could digest her, Qin's strength would rise to another level. With only 2 continents left, Qin would be able to unify the human world. The entire world would belong to Qin, and Zhao Fu would become the human world's only emperor. When that time came, Qin would be a level 1 dukedom kingdom. With that kind of strength, it would be able to protect itself in the ancient stem domain, and it would not have to worry about the various threats outside the legacy land. Chapter 1036. Zhao Fu did not plan to bring these people and cities back to Qin, and he left them in the northern continent. On one hand, he would be able to defend the northern continent, and on the other hand, if the dark demon world's southern continent was in danger, Qin would be able to send reinforcements. After dealing with the northern continent's matters, Qin once again entered a peaceful state of development, and the world once again welcomed peace. As long as Qin did not cause trouble, the world would most likely remain peaceful like this. Zhao Fu returned to Qin, and Li Si told Zhao Fu that it was time to confer titles. He said that he had brought back 18,000 or so foreign women with Phoenix Chi, and there were all sorts of races. Because the northern continent had been frozen in history, only a few indigenous people had survived. In modern times, all sorts of people had migrated over, resulting in the northern continent's current prosperity. The Heaven-awakened world had inherited this, so the northern continent had spawned many races from all over the world. Zhao Fu had never thought that he would bring back so many women, and he was quite shocked at the number. He asked, "Do all of these women really have Phoenix Chi?" Li Si gave an ambiguous smile as he replied, "Don't worry, Your Majesty, they definitely have phoenix chi. The northern continent is a place where most of the fate in modern times is gathered, and its geography and culture are quite special, which is why there are so many people here. Most of the people in the palace are Eastern women, but as the ruler of the world, your Majesty naturally cannot only have Eastern women. Otherwise, the commoners will think that your Majesty is biased towards the East and hates the West, causing conflict between different races. As such, this lowly subject gave the order to bring back any woman with phoenix chi. They all have their own characteristics and are quite beautiful. They also have all sorts of professions and can satisfy any of your Majesty's needs. In order to satisfy your Majesty's preferences, this lowly subject has also researched the real world's culture and made some clothes. Also, before Li Si could finish, Zhao Fu cut him off because he had been too considerate of Zhao Fu and had made all sorts of preparations. Zhao Fu felt quite embarrassed, and Zhao Fu did not think that he was very lecherous. Li Si smiled as he replied, "Your Majesty isn't a pervert, but a playboy. As the emperor of a generation and the future emperor of the human world, it's only right for you to be a playboy. However, I feel that your Majesty is too refined and restrained and has too few concubines." When Zhao Fu heard this, he really wanted to hit him. However, considering that he was loyal to him, he let it go. "Give me the imperial edict, and I'll leave everything to you. I won't go. And those women who don't have much phoenix chi left in the future, don't bring them back to Qin. Let them go." Zhao Fu said to Li Si. Li Si froze, not expecting Zhao Fu to say such a thing. He thought for a moment before reminding Zhao Fu, "Your Majesty, Qin needs phoenix chi, and phoenix chi can give Qin all sorts of benefits. It can also cause Qin's fate to quickly grow and purify it. Even though they don't provide much, there's still many of them. Also, it's their honor to be able to serve as Majesty in Qin's imperial palace, and Qin has given them all sorts of benefits. Most of them have volunteered. To be able to serve as Majesty in Qin's imperial palace is something that many women dream of. Ordinary women don't have phoenix chi, but they don't even have a chance to enter Qin's imperial palace." Zhao Fu didn't know how to respond, so he just said, "I know, but there are simply too many of them. If this continues, my imperial palace won't be able to hold so many people." Seeing that Zhao Fu's attitude was clear, Li Si didn't say anything else. In actuality, he wanted to say that the imperial palace should be expanded by many times, but even the emperor of Qin didn't want to do this. As such, he naturally wouldn't say anything else in case he made Zhao Fu unhappy. Li Si nodded, indicating that he understood Zhao Fu's intentions. He smiled as he handed over a few long scrolls of imperial edicts, and Zhao Fu took out the royal seal of Qin and stamped them one by one. These imperial edicts were immediately acknowledged by the kingdom's fate. Following this, Li Si took these imperial edicts and left. Zhao Fu stayed in the Great Hall and read through all sorts of memorials to understand what was happening in various places. The human world was now tens of times larger than before. Even though Qin hadn't unified the world yet, it occupied 3 continents, and its land area was more than 10 times larger than Earth's. Millions of memorials were sent to various places every day. How could Zhao Fu read all of them? As such, the memorials that were sent to Zhao Fu were all about important matters, while the smaller and less important matters were given to other civil officials. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion sounded out, and Zhao Fu saw a massive golden pillar of aura in front of the Great Hall. It gave off a terrifying aura as it rushed into the sky and slammed into the sky. The aura at the top of the pillar of aura spread out, forming golden clouds, and the entire world was dyed a gorgeous golden color. Scree! A massive phoenix cry sounded out as the Emperor Phoenix statue turned into a golden phoenix and flew into the sky. It elegantly circled around the pillar of aura a few times and gave off motes of golden light, looking incredibly beautiful. Only then did it enter the top of the pillar of aura. Boom! Another explosion sounded out as a massive aura spread out from the sky. Boundless golden light pierced through the clouds and covered Qin's territory, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Countless traces of black fate continuously floated out, and a small portion of it dissipated. However, the remaining portion was more stable and pure, and it had a trace of crystalline color. Because Qin had just conquered the northern continent, the fate of Qin's northern continent was not very stable, and it roiled like an ocean. However, as the golden light covered this place, the ocean of fate gradually calmed down. Under the golden light, the residents of the northern continent, who had just submitted to Qin, felt their restless, and fearful hearts slowly calm down. The golden light covered the tens of thousands of residents of Qin, and everyone felt a warm power flow out from within their bodies. Their bodies felt incredibly comfortable, and some of their illnesses and injuries were slowly healed. Everyone's strength gradually increased. These abnormal changes caused the heavens and earth to change, and the people from the other continents saw a golden sun rise up from the midland continent, giving off a brilliant golden light. The women who had been conferred titles were also covered by the golden light, and a massive power seemed to enter their bodies, causing them to slowly go through changes. Their skin became more and more white and tender, and they became younger and younger, and their minds became more and more refined. Zhao Fu looked at the golden phoenix in the sky. It was already 6,000 meters wide and gave off a blinding golden light, making it seem like a sun. At the same time, he felt a massive wave of power flow into his body. The phoenix crystal within his body absorbed this power and continuously grew, and Zhao Fu felt his body slowly go through changes. He felt that his constitution, power, and mind were all becoming stronger. Within Zhao Fu's body, the golden dragon laughed as it said, "Congratulations, your Emperor Phoenix statue is now half a clan armament. Because of how special it is even more powerful than ordinary clan armaments." Hearing this, Zhao Fu lightly laughed and realized that he had asked Li Si to help him confer titles to those concubines. No wonder the Emperor Phoenix statue had reacted so strongly. Chapter 10:37. Following this, the massive golden phoenix danced in the sky for a while before turning back into the Emperor Phoenix statue and landing on the Heaven Prayer platform. Zhao Fu's transformation was complete, and the phoenix crystal within his body was now as big as a fist. Zhao Fu could clearly sense that the phoenix crystal was giving birth to something, as it already had its own consciousness. Apart from this, Zhao Fu felt that he had become much younger, and his power had become greater. His lifespan had also increased, and the benefits were quite great. Afterwards, Zhao Fu heard that the women who had been made imperial concubines had their constitutions greatly improved, and their lifespans had also increased. Adding on the calming effects of the northern continent, the Emperor Phoenix statue's effects were far greater than what Zhao Fu had expected. Zhao Fu felt that the Emperor Phoenix statue's potential was not just that, and it seemed that he had to nurture it. Its power in the future would definitely not disappoint Zhao Fu. After coming out of the palace, Li Si had already conferred titles. Seeing Zhao Fu come out, he knew that it was because of the Emperor Phoenix statue, so he smiled and cupped his hands as he said, "Congratulations, Your Majesty." Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he nodded and looked at the women. These women were quite daring, and they did not hide their seductive gazes at all. However, their kingdom had always been quite open, so it was understandable. Zhao Fu had people help them settle down and did not do anything to them. He returned to the palace and started to read through memorials. This went on for half a month, and because there was not much to do, Zhao Fu continued to read through memorials in the palace. It could be said that he did not spend much time on internal affairs. "Your Majesty, aren't you bored staying in the palace?" Li Muqing said with a smile as she brought some memorials. Zhao Fu raised his head and looked at her as he said, "There's not much to do right now, and everything is peaceful. I can only read memorials in the palace." Li Muqing lightly laughed as she said, "In that case, Your Majesty, why don't you go incognito and see the great lands that you've created? That way, you'll be able to see the true appearance of the Qin Empire and understand the people of the Qin Empire. It's much better than reading through memorials in the palace. Incognito visit? Zhao Fu couldn't help but chuckle. In the past, when he watched TV dramas, the emperor seemed to like to travel incognito, and then a series of interesting things would happen. That's fine. Zhao Fu thought for a while. Li Muqing was right. It was better to see it in person than to hear it from others. It was more real, and he could know clearly about Qin's current situation and what needed to be improved. Then, Zhao Fu dressed up a bit, changed his appearance, and changed into ordinary clothes. In fact, Zhao Fu didn't need to change much because there were tens of billions of people in Qin State, and only a few people had seen Zhao Fu. Together with Gania and Li Muqing, they left Qin's imperial palace. On the way, Zhao Fu looked at Li Muqing and asked, "Where are we going now? Since you called me out, you must have a place to go, right?" Li Muqing smiled and nodded, saying, "Your Majesty, I want to show you the scenery outside of the royal capital. Let's go to the second most prosperous place in Qin State." Qin State was located in the north, and the royal city was the capital of the Qin Empire. It was naturally the most prosperous place in Qin State, and it was the center of culture, ideology, and economy. The second most prosperous place was the central region of the Midland Continent. This was the most prosperous place in the Midland Continent, and there were countless sects and sects. There was dense spirit qi and many treasures. It had originally belonged to the Xia dynasty, but it now belonged to Qin State. The sects and sects there had not moved, so the prosperity there had not changed. However, it was definitely not as prosperous as the royal capital of Qin State. The three of them headed to the central region and arrived at a city called Godly Object City. This city was a level 5 great city, and it was located in the south of the central region. It was one of the larger cities in the central region. When Zhao Fu arrived, he saw that there were many people coming and going on the streets, and there were many hawkers on the streets. The sounds of hawkers and laughter continuously sounded out, creating a bustling scene. Facing the empire that he had created, Zhao Fu was naturally quite interested. Normally, Zhao Fu did not have the time to care about these things, as it was enough to ensure the stability of the empire. As such, he had not personally seen what Qin State looked like. Now that there was so much land in Qin State, Zhao Fu had not been to 90% of it. Civil officials had always been in charge of managing it, while Zhao Fu had only stayed in the imperial palace to wait for the results. Zhao Fu was quite interested in this first visit, and he wanted to see things that he could not see from the imperial memorials. After walking for a while, Zhao Fu smelled a fragrant aroma. He turned and saw a peddler selling kebabs. Not only did he use spices, but the kebabs also gave off a wondrous aroma that made people want to take a bite. Li Muqing smiled as he said, "Sir, I'll buy some for you." Zhao Fu nodded and did not refuse. He wanted to try the kebabs, but after seeing the changes in Li Muqing, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. Before, she had given off a scholarly aura, but now that she had become an official, she seemed much more approachable. Gania stood by Zhao Fu's side like a block of wood, looking out for anything that might happen. "Sir, let me feed you." Li Muqing bought a few kebabs. Because she did not want to address Zhao Fu as His Majesty, she called him Sir. She blew on the kebabs before taking a piece of meat and gently placing it by Zhao Fu's mouth. Zhao Fu did not think much of it. After all, in the imperial palace, according to etiquette, there would be people who would take care of everything. However, at that moment, a chubby child pointed at Zhao Fu with a kebab in his hand and laughed as he said, "You're already so old, yet you still need someone to feed you? How shameful." Zhao Fu looked quite awkward. A middle-aged man next to him patted the boy's head and smiled apologetically at Zhao Fu and the others as he said, "I'm sorry. Children don't know any better." Seeing that Zhao Fu had an outstanding aura and had his own guards and maidservants, this man was definitely not an ordinary person. He could not afford to offend such a person. Zhao Fu smiled as he shook his head, indicating that it was fine. The man smiled and inwardly let out a sigh of relief as he said, "I knew that Sir was a well-educated and well-mannered person. Qin is becoming better and better." Zhao Fu felt quite surprised as he asked, "Why do you say that?" The man smiled as he replied, "Now that Qin is encouraging the development of the academy, most of the young masters are gentle and well-mannered. Moreover, Qin's laws protect commoners like us. If it was like before, we might lose our lives because of a single word." Chapter 1038. I want this boy to go to the academy to learn etiquette and knowledge. I want him to become an official and work for the Qin Empire. The little boy had just been patted by his father and looked quite dissatisfied. He pouted as he ate the meat skewers. Hearing this, he said angrily, "Dad, I don't want to be a civil official. I want to be a general like General Bai Qi. I want to expand His Majesty's territory and build a great empire for His Majesty." The man smiled as he rubbed the little boy's head and said, "That's fine. As long as you work for His Majesty and become an official, I'll support you no matter what you want to do." The little boy raised his head proudly and said, "Of course, I'm the general that the fortune teller told me about. I'll definitely become a general in the future, and His Majesty will be very happy to see me. He might even take me as his godson." The middle-aged man couldn't help but laugh as he said, "Don't take the fortune teller's words too seriously. There are many talented generals around His Majesty. Even if you become a general, His Majesty won't be very happy unless you have an amazing performance. Also, you want to be His Majesty's godson? If you can meet His Majesty, our ancestors will be very grateful." The little boy puffed up his cheeks and said angrily, "Humph, just wait and see, Dad. His Majesty will definitely make me a general in the future. I'll make countless contributions, and His Majesty will reward me with treasures and beauties. You can live a happy life in the future." The man laughed loudly and replied, "Good, good, good. Dad is waiting." Zhao Fu stood there and looked at the father and son, feeling quite awkward. After all, he was the emperor of the great Qin Empire they were talking about. At this moment, the man looked at Zhao Fu. Because he felt that Zhao Fu was quite kind, he spoke more warmly and said, "Gongzi, the meat you bought is going to get cold. This is our local specialty, tiger beef. It won't taste good if it gets cold." Hearing this, Zhao Fu didn't ask Li Muqing to serve him anymore. He took the meat skewer and ate a few mouthfuls. He found that it was very delicious, and the meat was chewy. Li Muqing stood at the side with a smile on her face. This was actually the reason why she brought Zhao Fu along. In the imperial palace, Zhao Fu was high up and sat in the most powerful position in Qin. Everything was carefully taken care of. It could be said that he lived like a prince and was above the common people. His attitude toward the common people also changed. The distance between them seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. In particular, Zhao Fu was already somewhat tempted by the idea of creating a monster world. It seemed that he also wanted to use bloody and cruel means to cultivate a large number of monsters. Li Muqing felt that it was better for Zhao Fu to be closer to the people. This was the blessing of the world and the joy of the people. The Qin Empire was a paradise, not hell. "Sister, you're so beautiful." The little boy's giggling words interrupted Li Muqing's thoughts. Li Muqing looked at the little boy and pinched his cute little face. After saying a few more words, the little boy left with his father. "Sir, let's continue walking around. We've only just entered the Divine Object City, and there might be even more interesting things in the future," Li Muqing said as she smiled. Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded. Following this, the three of them saw a place surrounded by people. Zhao Fu curiously walked over and found that it was a joust for a spouse, and he felt that it was quite interesting. However, the person looking for a spouse was not a flirtatious-looking woman, but a delicate-looking man wearing green clothes and holding a bamboo flute. Overall, he looked quite decent, and most women would like him. Zhao Fu felt that it was quite strange for men to have a joust for a spouse, so he couldn't help but ask, "Can men also have a joust for a spouse?" Before Li Muqing could reply, a young man holding a folding fan turned and looked at Zhao Fu with a trace of disdain as he said, "Brat, you're for the countryside, right? Your way of thinking is too old-fashioned and rotten." A trace of coldness flashed in Gania's eyes. Someone had dared to speak to the emperor of Qin like this. However, because Zhao Fu had no intention of doing anything. He did not do anything. Zhao Fu felt quite confused. When had his way of thinking become so old-fashioned and rotten? Wasn't he sitting at the center of Qin's power and thinking? Ahem, this lowly one is from the countryside and doesn't quite understand. Please forgive me, brother, Zhao Fu said as he cleared his throat and smiled as he cupped his hands. Seeing how courteous Zhao Fu was, the young man's attitude became much better. He returned the greeting and said, "This lowly one is called Xiao Yuanyuan, a student of the South Lake Academy." Brother Xiao, is this a common occurrence? Zhao Fu asked. Xiao Yuanyuan lightly nodded as he said, "Of course it's quite common. Right now, Qin's thinking is exploding and all sorts of cultures are exchanging ideas. Our Majesty is also trying to develop this. No matter what it is, as long as it doesn't harm the country or the commoners, we should treat it objectively and rationally. We can't discriminate or insult other cultures, ideologies, or races. Qin's laws stipulate that if the punishment is light, the punishment will be an apology, and if the punishment is heavy, the punishment will be flogged. As such, all sorts of things are happening. For example, in the early days, some people started to think about women's rights and called for equality between men and women. This was supported by His Majesty, so this idea quickly spread. Now, many women aren't as weak as they used to be, and they need men's protection. Instead, they're filled with determination and strength, and some women are like men, using all sorts of methods to pursue the men they love. Also, the idea of us being men is gradually rising. What women can do, men can also do. Therefore, it's fine for men to hold a competition to find a spouse, as long as it doesn't violate the laws of Qin. After listening to the explanation, Zhao Fu couldn't help but chuckle. He realized that the people were indeed different from what he had imagined. Things were far from simple, and they were very complicated. Looking at the arena, there were indeed two women who went up, and they also fought with each other. In the end, a woman in a red dress won. She walked up to the young man, lifted his chin, and announced with a loud laugh, "You're mine now." Zhao Fu wasn't used to this, and he couldn't help but say, "Are all women so valiant?" Xiao Yuanchu opened his folding fan and fanned himself with a smile as he said, "I told you that your thinking is too old-fashioned and decadent. It seems that the culture of Qin is not widespread enough. Tell me about that small rural place you come from. Later, I'll write a letter for you and send it to the government office to see what's going on there." The county magistrate is a bit powerless, and he's really ashamed of being favored by His Majesty. Chapter 1039. Xiao Yuanchu snorted lightly. Just now, when you asked that question, you must think that women are weak and men should be strong. Men should protect women, and women should be protected, right? That's typical male chauvinism. Now, men and women are equal in Qin, and they can choose what they want. Women can choose to be stronger than men, and men can choose to be weaker than women. It's also normal for men to be strong and protect women, and women can choose to be weak. You can't look at things from the point of view that men must be strong. Everything can be freely chosen. What do you think? You can say that you are living in the best era, and it is because of His Majesty's wisdom that Qin can have such a good life. You should be grateful to His Majesty. Zhao Fu dryly laughed and didn't know what to say. His Majesty was quite different from the Majesty they had imagined. Do you think it's okay to do this? At this moment, Zhao Fu asked Xiao Yuanchu seriously. He wanted to know what the commoners thought about this matter. Xiao Yuanchu smiled and said, "Of course it's okay. We must support it. I want to praise His Majesty's tolerance and open-mindedness. Everyone has their own choices, and they can work hard for their own lives and work hard for the future of Qin." Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. However, he still had to go back and collect more information from the commoners before dealing with this matter. In August of this year, Great Qin will once again hold the imperial examinations. Perhaps I'll have a chance to see His Majesty's peerless face and the goddess in our hearts, Lady Li Muqing. Xiao Yuanyuan suddenly said with a confident smile. Hearing this, Zhao Fu lightly laughed and turned to look at Li Muqing beside him as he said, "Why is Li Muqing the goddess in your hearts?" Xiao Yuanchu said with a trace of admiration, "Of course it's because of her talent and her peerless beauty. She is now a favorite of His Majesty, and she participates in all the important matters in the imperial court, especially in literature. She is also one of the most beautiful women in Qin." Li Muqing blushed and felt a bit embarrassed as she faced Zhao Fu's gaze. At this time, the red-clothed woman on the arena thought that she had won and that no one would compete with her. She was about to leave with the delicate young man. However, at that moment, a well-built young man walked onto the stage and shouted, "Wait, I want a challenge too." Zhao Fu looked quite surprised as he asked, "Didn't the men start a martial arts competition to find a spouse? Men can participate too?" Xiao Yuanchu felt a little helpless. He sighed and said, "I really don't know where you came from. Don't make a big fuss about everything. Can't men talk to each other? Since ancient times, it has been between men, but because of ethics, people are ashamed to mention it. His Majesty, as the greatest emperor in the human world, naturally wouldn't be restricted by such things. Moreover, this kind of thing was already very common in the original real world. Moreover, all sorts of ideas and cultures started to gather in Qin, causing intense clashes and changes. If they weren't properly dealt with, Qin would not be peaceful, and there might even be internal strife. However, even if there were internal strife, with Qin's strength, we would be able to quickly quell it. However, internal strife is not a good thing. We have to thank His Majesty, Qin's Majesty. It's because His Majesty is so wise, far-sighted, broad-minded, and tolerant that Qin is now so prosperous and powerful. Think about it. Who has His Majesty's breadth of mind? Our Majesty is indeed worthy of being the man who will unify the human world. If this matter was dealt with by the Han Dynasty, we would be cursed to death along with those Confucian scholars. But if it was dealt with by Great Shang, we would be executed. In the face of Xiao Yuanchu's praise, Zhao Fu could only accept it with a shy face and smile. At that moment, the well-built young man ferociously punched towards the red-clothed woman, causing a gust of wind to blow. The red-clothed woman dodged to the side and kicked out. Bang! A muffled sound rang out as the well-built young man was kicked in the abdomen. His body flew backwards and crashed to the ground, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The red-clothed woman rushed forwards, wanting to follow up with another attack. At that moment, a black-clothed man with a black bird embroidered on his chest and a saber at his waist said, "He's already lost. Don't attack." Hearing the man's words, the red-clothed woman obediently listened, while the well-built young man sighed and walked off the stage by himself. It was as if the black-clothed young man's words could not be disobeyed. Zhao Fu looked at the young man, and Xiao Yuanchu thought that Zhao Fu, a country bumpkin, did not know who he was. Just as he was about to explain, Zhao Fu smiled and cut him off, saying, "I know who he is." The black-clothed young man was called the law enforcer, and his job was to maintain order and enforce the laws. He was also responsible for solving cases and arresting criminals. This was different from the guards who were responsible for guarding the city. The guards were only responsible for guarding the city, suppressing riots, and maintaining the general order of the city. They would not care about anything else, while the law enforcers were responsible for handling the various affairs of the people. Because of the mysterious bird embroidered on their chests, the enforcement team was also called the Mysterious Bird Guard. It was also Qin's original creation. It was also something that Zhao Fu and many ministers discussed. As more and more commoners appeared, more and more things happened. As such, there needed to be a group of people responsible for dealing with commoners, which was why law enforcers were born. In addition, Qin forbade private fights for no reason. Both parties would be punished no matter who was right or wrong. However, a martial arts competition or gladiatorial fight like this must be approved by the government before it could be carried out. Otherwise, as soon as the competition began, the enforcer would have thrown them into prison and punished them according to their crimes. Xiao Yuan was a little surprised, but he did not pay too much attention to it. After all, every city had one. Then, the The red-clothed woman stood on the stage and asked loudly, "Now, who else wants to fight with this old lady? Step forward." Everyone looked at each other, but no one stood out. Xiao Yuanyuan smiled and said to Zhao Fu, "Brother, do you want to go up and have a try? Do you want to go up and give it a try? That young man looks very delicate." Zhao Fu felt a chill in his heart and hurriedly shook his head. No one else went up to the stage. The delicate young man naturally belonged to the red-clothed woman, and the young man seemed to be quite satisfied with the red-clothed woman. Following this, the two of them left together. Since there was no show to watch, everyone started to disperse. Chapter 1040. Zhao Fu and the others continued to wander the streets until the afternoon. The setting sun dyed half the sky golden, and it was time to return. "Your Majesty, how did you feel about this trip?" Li Muqing asked with a trace of smile. Hearing this, Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. "We've gained much this time, and we've seen many unexpected things. We've also seen Qin's true appearance, and it's much more interesting than what's written in the reports." Li Muqing smiled as he replied, "In that case, Your Majesty, you should come out more often in the future and experience Qin's people." Zhao Fu lightly nodded and agreed. Following this, Zhao Fu and the others returned to the Qin Empire's capital. After resting for a while, Zhao Fu continued to read through reports. He felt different from before, and it was as if he was more interested in political affairs. A few days later, Zhao Fu finished reading reports and went outside the Legacy Land because something big had happened. The Blue Wolf Kingdom had suffered heavy losses after fighting with the Lalai Kingdom. Almost 70% of its soldiers and city lords had died, and the remaining forces were too weak to defend the kingdom. Even though the Blue Wolf Kingdom had entered the highest level of defense and had greatly expanded its forces, their battle strength was not as great as before. Moreover, they had lost a city lord, which was a fatal blow. Back then, the surrounding kingdoms had not allowed Zhao Fu to act against the Blue Wolf Kingdom because they wanted to act themselves. The surrounding kingdoms had allied together to divide the Blue Wolf Kingdom. This was the reason why Zhao Fu had come out. Now that the half-beast kingdoms were preparing to attack the Blue Wolf Kingdom, Zhao Fu had hurriedly come out. Zhao Fu had long since wanted to devour the Blue Wolf Kingdom, but he had not been able to do so. After all, the Lalai Kingdom was quite weak and could not defend against the other kingdoms, so he could only give up. Right now, the Blue Wolf Kingdom was like a juicy piece of meat, and everyone wanted to take a bite out of it. Of course, with the Lalai Kingdom's power, they did not dare to enter the half-beast world by themselves. It was possible that they would be surrounded and attacked by half-beasts from other kingdoms. As such, Zhao Fu planned to gather a few helpers to attack the Blue Wolf Kingdom. In other words, he wanted to ally with the surrounding grassy kingdoms to divide up the Blue Wolf Kingdom. With a few kingdoms attacking the half-beast world together, they now had the confidence to not be afraid of being surrounded by the half-beast world. Even though the Lalai Kingdom's neighboring kingdoms had left them to die and had even set their sights on the Lalai Kingdom, there were no eternal enemies or eternal friends. There were only eternal benefits, so they were most likely quite tempted. He asked Li Yu to send an invitation letter to these countries, and they quickly responded. Zhao Fu smiled as he looked at the letter, and Li Yu sat in Zhao Fu's embrace. Looking at the contents of the letter, she smiled and said, "Little husband, how much will the Lalai Kingdom's territory increase this time?" Outside the Legacy Lands, conquering regions was not as easy as conquering in the Legacy Lands. After all, each region had its own fate, and if anyone wanted to take it, they would have to attack that faction. Within the Legacy Lands, system main cities could give up on their own regions and gather together, and they could freely conquer their own regions. The first time they conquer a region, they would receive a region treasure box, but they would not receive a region treasure box the second time. Now that the human world was in its later stages, system main cities could be categorized as factions and receive the same treatment as ordinary factions, and they could also obtain region treasure boxes. This made it very difficult for Qin to obtain region treasure boxes, as most of them had already been taken by others. Hearing Lu Yu's words, Zhao Fu slightly smiled and said, "I'll do my best. I'll help the Lilai Kingdom obtain the most benefits." Lu Yu happily kissed Zhao Fu and said, "Thank you, little husband. I haven't seen you in a while, and you don't know how much I've missed you. Can you please satisfy me first?" Zhao Fu looked down at the beautiful woman in his embrace and smiled as he said, "Let's leave that for later. Right now, the half-beast kingdoms are attacking the Blue Wolf Kingdom, so we need to act quickly, or else we won't be able to obtain anything." Lu Yu felt a bit disappointed, but she understood the bigger picture and said, "All right, we'll call Jiwen to wait for you then." Zhao Fu lightly nodded before leaving the Lilai Kingdom's palace. There were 3 other kingdoms around the Lilai Kingdom, and each of them had a small border with the Blue Wolf Kingdom. They could directly attack them and obtain control over them, allowing them to expand their territory. None of them dared to attack the half-beast world on their own, and the Lilai Kingdom's proposal was happily agreed to. With a few kingdoms invading together, they would feel much more confident and would not have to worry about the threat of the half-beast world. This time, the 4 kingdoms, including the Lilai Kingdom, split into 4 groups and simultaneously invaded the Blue Wolf Kingdom's territory. Each kingdom sent out at least 20 million soldiers and 700 city lords, as well as some generals. Over the half-beast kingdom side, there were a total of 3 half-beast kingdoms attacking the Blue Wolf Kingdom. Zhao Fu gathered 90 million soldiers and 2,500 or so city lords to attack the Blue Wolf Kingdom, while the Blue Wolf Kingdom desperately defended and temporarily expanded their forces. However, they only had 50 million soldiers and 1,000 or so city lords. These city lords and soldiers were the Blue Wolf Kingdom's final line of defense, and there were also some civil officials and city guards. The 2 armies gathered together, and the terrifying and austere auras caused the air to become incredibly heavy. The Blue Wolf Kingdom's people's faces were quite pale, and because of the disparity in numbers, they were at a great disadvantage. On the other hand, the other side all smiled and looked incredibly confident as they looked at the Blue Wolf Kingdom's people. They were confident that they would be able to split the Blue Wolf Kingdom's territory. In the sky, the 2 sides' city lords gave off powerful auras as they faced off against each other. The Blue Wolf Kingdom side was led by a half-beast woman. This half-beast woman had a fiery figure and beautiful looks, and she gave off a resolute look. She had wolf ears and a wolf tail that were both snow-white, and she looked incredibly gentle and beautiful. She was the Blue Wolf Kingdom's queen, and she was called Song Xiuanu. This was a battle to destroy a kingdom, and the kings of the other 3 kingdoms had come. They were all male half-beasts, and they were all middle-aged. When my father was alive, I had a good relationship with all of you, and I even called you 3 uncles. Now that he's dead, you want to destroy the Blue Wolf Kingdom? You're going too far, Song Xiuanu furiously said as she looked at the 3 people. Chapter 1041. With the Blue Wolf Kingdom's current strength, it will be very difficult for you to protect yourselves. The 3 of us are helping the Blue Wolf Kingdom, or else you'll be destroyed by others sooner or later. Because of our past relationship, if you submit to the 3 of us, we'll give you some benefits. You have no other choice. You can either submit to us or be destroyed. You can't blame anyone but the Blue Wolf Kingdom for being so weak and losing so much battle force to attack the Lilai Kingdom. If you didn't attack, we wouldn't have dared to attack either. Song Xiuanu's gaze was somewhat cold, but she did not regret this. After all, her father, the king of the Blue Wolf Kingdom, had been ambushed and killed by the other side, and she had to take revenge for this. However, she had never thought that the weak Lilai Kingdom would have the help of an expert, instantly turning the situation around. All of their preparations had been rendered useless, and they had all failed. If it wasn't for that expert's help, the Blue Wolf Kingdom would have destroyed the Lilai Kingdom long ago and devoured its faction, making them even more powerful. Of the 3 half-wolf kings, a slightly chubby one said, "It's the Snow Maidens. Uncle watched you grow up and become so beautiful. Now that the Blue Wolf Kingdom has no hope, you can only choose to surrender. You can come and serve Uncle. there's still a place for you in the Blue Wolf Kingdom. Hearing these shameless words, Song Shuanu could not help but attack, and her halberd ferociously stabbed towards a chubby man. With Song Shuanu attacking first, the battle between the two sides began. The soldiers on the ground started to charge, giving off shocking sounds as they rushed towards the Great Wall like a flood. Powerful auras exploded out as core formations appeared, and countless arrows tore through the air. The city lords in the air also gave off powerful auras as they rushed out and started to fight, causing terrifying shockwaves to spread out. The battle was incredibly intense, and blood flew everywhere as cries continuously sounded out. Both sides ferociously attacked, and more people died. Arg! Song Shunu cried out as she vigorously slashed out with her halberd. 3 ice flood dragons giving off cold auras roared as they rushed towards the other 3 kings. The surrounding temperature plummeted, and even the air seemed to condense. It could be seen how terrifying this attack was. However, the 3 kings were not to be trifled with either. They unleashed 3 terrifying attacks, easily shattering the 3 ice flood dragons. A person quickly rushed over and did not hold back at all. He slashed out with his saber, and a sharp saber light containing terrifying saber chi slashed towards Song Shuanu. Song Shuanu's expression did not change as she gripped the halberd in her hand and vigorously stabbed out. A ferocious cold light shot out and collided with the saber light, resulting in a massive explosion and a berserk gale. However, at this moment, another person suddenly appeared behind Song Shuanu. The sword in his hand viciously stabbed towards Song Shuanu's heart. Song Shuanu's expression fell, and just as she was about to do something, another person held a short axe and gave off an explosive power as he hacked towards Song Shuanu's head, looking incredibly savage. Facing the terrifying attacks of the two, Song Shuanu was unable to defend against both sides. Moreover, both of them were using killing moves. Now that the situation was critical, if she could not block them, she might die here. Boom! A terrifying aura exploded out from Song Shuanu's body, and she did not hesitate to use her nation armament. This was the nation armament of a true kingdom, and it was not something that a nation armament without a kingdom could compare to. This power sent the 2 people flying, but it was not able to harm them. Boom! 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 3 massive explosions sounded out. There was not just one person with a nation armament. The other 3 people also released their nation armament's power, and the 2 sides once again started to fight. However, from the looks of it, Song Shuanu was at a disadvantage. She was being suppressed by the other 3 people, and the situation was quite dire. She was already injured because she was facing 3 veteran kings, and their cultivation and experience far surpassed hers. Apart from her side, the Blue Wolf Kingdom side was also at a disadvantage. They did not have as many city lords as the other side, and they had to face multiple people by themselves. They also did not have enough soldiers, and even though they were able to ferociously counterattack, their enemies had already reached the top of the Great Wall. The core formations in the air also gave off terrifying shockwaves. In terms of numbers, the Blue Wolf Kingdom was not a match for the other 3 people, and they were being suppressed. This situation was quite unfavorable, and the Blue Wolf Kingdom was about to lose. At that moment, Zhao Fu and the other 4 grassy kingdoms took this opportunity to attack the Blue Wolf Kingdom. There was almost no resistance, as the Blue Wolf Kingdom's main force had been sent to defend against the other 3 kingdoms, while Zhao Fu and the others were simply taking advantage of the situation. The 4 countries had split into 4 armies, and after easily breaking through the Blue Wolf Kingdom's Great Wall, they began to unbridledly plunder and kill. There had been an agreement that whoever managed to plunder the Blue Wolf Kingdom's Great Wall would get what they wanted. Thus, at this moment, they all became bandits, not hiding their greed. Cities were quickly broken through, and after the grassy people rushed into the cities, they did not say anything and directly killed in all directions, stealing everything of value. Most of the people in the cities were ordinary people, and they were unable to defend against the ferocious army. They were slaughtered on one side, and the scene was incredibly bloody. Because the Lalai Kingdom was quite close to the Blue Wolf Kingdom, they were quite close to each other. As such, Zhao Fu chose to attack the Blue Wolf Kingdom's royal palace from the center. At the same time, the half-beasts that they had subdued before came into effect. Zhao Fu told them that the Blue Wolf Kingdom was doomed to be destroyed, so they could bring their friends and family to the Lalai Kingdom. The Lalai Kingdom would guarantee their safety, and they would be treated equally and would no longer be slaves. After the half-beasts found that the Blue Wolf Kingdom had no hope, they felt incredibly grateful towards the Lalai Kingdom. As such, they listened to Zhao Fu and started to persuade the half-beasts to join the Lalai Kingdom. Zhao Fu had subdued many half-beasts in the past, and because of this, his army advanced incredibly quickly. Most of the half-beasts had surrendered, and they did not resist much, so they naturally gained the most benefits. News of the 4 grassy kingdoms attacking the Blue Wolf Kingdom instantly spread to the front lines. Song Xuanu's face became incredibly pale, and she understood that the Blue Wolf Kingdom was most likely going to be destroyed. The 3 other kings were furious. They had put in a lot of effort to destroy the Blue Wolf Kingdom's main force, but the grassy people had reaped all the benefits. They had long since considered the Blue Wolf Kingdom to be theirs, and now the grassy people were stealing from them. This naturally made them incredibly furious. Chapter 1042. Song Xuanu immediately said to the other 3 kings, "Now that the Blue Wolf Kingdom is going to be destroyed by the grassy people, you won't be able to obtain any benefits. The Blue Wolf Kingdom can surrender to you in the future, which is much better than being destroyed by the grassy people. Don't worry, the Blue Wolf Kingdom no longer has the power to stop you, so we should go and stop the grassy people." Hearing this, the other 3 kings thought about it and said, "Right now, the Blue Wolf Kingdom indeed doesn't have the power to stop them. Right now, our priority should be to chase out those shameless grassy people and not let them steal our things." As such, the 3 kings agreed to Song Xuanu's suggestion. Of course, they were on their guard. On the other side, the 4 grassy kingdoms quickly conquered regions, and in a short period of time, they had taken over 2/5 of the Blue Wolf Kingdom's territory. Zhao Fu looked quite delighted as he attacked the Blue Wolf Kingdom's royal city. The Kingdom Protecting Formation had long since been activated, forming a massive energy barrier that protected the royal city. Time was of the essence, so Zhao Fu immediately gave the order to attack the Kingdom Protecting Formation. There were some soldiers within the royal city, but if they could not break through the Kingdom Protecting Formation, they would not be able to harm them. As such, Zhao Fu ordered all of the soldiers to attack the Kingdom Protecting Formation from a safe distance. With Zhao Fu's power alone, it would be quite difficult to break through a kingdom's Kingdom Protecting Formation. After all, a Kingdom Protecting Formation gathered all of the kingdom's power, and it would not be easy to break through it. However, the situation was different. The Blue Wolf Kingdom had already been conquered, and it had lost a large amount of fate, causing the Kingdom Protecting Formation's power to greatly decrease. At the same time, Zhao Fu still had 20 million soldiers. Boom, boom, boom. Ordinary soldiers' power could not fuse with the core formations because they were not part of the core. They could only rely on this method to provide power, but it was quite costly. The 5 core formations expanded to 700 or 800 meters tall and gave off powerful auras, causing the weather to change and shaking the surroundings. They then charged towards the royal city and ferociously attacked, madly slamming against the kingdom barrier. Xiao xiao xiao. Some soldiers also drew their bows and aimed at the barrier. Countless arrows rained down and landed on the barrier. Even though the kingdom had already been breached, the kingdom protecting barrier was incredibly sturdy. Facing so many attacks, its power was only slightly weakened. It would take at least a few hours to break through. Boom! An incomparably powerful pressure descended. The Qin royal seal within Zhao Fu's body continuously trembled as massive Qin kingdom power flowed into Zhao Fu's body. A black flame burst forth from Zhao Fu's body, causing the space around him to twist as a strong wind blew out. When this massive aura appeared, everyone in the surrounding 10 or so regions could sense it. It was a power that caused them to feel despair. The 20 million soldiers on the ground and the people of the half-beast monarch city trembled in the face of this terrifying aura. Devil's Sun, a massive pillar of demonic chi, rushed into the sky. The massive sun in the sky seemed to be dyed black and gave off intense demonic light as a boundless demonic intent spread out. Zhao Fu raised the sky demon sword and used one of his most powerful skills before vigorously slashing downwards. A massive black sword light seemed to be able to tear apart the heavens and earth as it slashed towards the energy barrier, destroying everything. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The kingdom protecting formation violently trembled as it did its best to defend against that world-destroying sword light. In the end, the kingdom protecting formation was able to completely defend. However, it had used up a lot of power. Boom! Another pillar of demonic chi, giving off ferocious aura, rushed into the sky, dyeing the sun black and giving off a heaven-toppling demonic intent. Following this, another terrifying sword light slashed out. The other soldiers quickly attacked the kingdom-protecting formation, and the 5 core formations ferociously clashed. The kingdom-protecting formation's power was once again reduced. After the 4th sword strike, the powerful and firm kingdom-protecting formation was now covered with cracks. Everyone in the royal city started to panic because the kingdom-protecting formation was about to be destroyed. Chapter 1043. Who are you? Song Shunu stared at Zhao Fu coldly as she grabbed at the air, and the halberd that had been sent flying returned her hand. Me? The Lalai Kingdom's Empress, Zhao Fu replied as he lightly laughed. An intense hatred appeared in Song Xuanu's eyes. Everything that had happened to the Blue Wolf Kingdom could be said to be caused by Zhao Fu. If it wasn't for him, the Blue Wolf Kingdom would not have suffered such a crushing defeat, and the other kingdoms would not have attacked the Blue Wolf Kingdom. Boom! Song Xuanu exploded out with a terrifying aura and shot out like a bolt of lightning, instantly appearing in front of Zhao Fu. She gripped her halberd with both hands and sent massive amounts of power into it, causing it to give off a cold light as she slashed towards Zhao Fu with all of her strength. Bang! Zhao Fu did not even look at her and casually slashed out, sending out a boundless sword chi that sent Song Xuanu flying. She crashed to the ground and coughed up a large mouthful of blood, her face pale. Because of her hatred, Song Xuanu had overlooked that terrifying aura from Zhao Fu, which was many times more powerful than hers. Zhao Fu condescendingly laughed and did not bother with her. Now that the protective barrier had been destroyed, Zhao Fu only needed to conquer the city heart, and the Blue Wolf Kingdom would be destroyed. Swish! Zhao Fu turned into a ray of light and rushed into the city hall. Song Xuanu looked quite shocked and also rushed in. Seeing that Zhao Fu's hand was already on the city heart, she hurriedly called out, "Wait, as long as you don't conquer it, I'll agree to anything." Zhao Fu unexpectedly stopped and thought about it. He had a plan, so he turned and smiled as he said, "It seems that you don't have anything else that can attract me. Whether or not you can escape is another matter. Your royal family has already been taken down by the Lalai Kingdom. What price will you pay to prevent me from conquering the Blue Wolf Kingdom?" Song Xuanu's expression was quite unsightly because she had nothing left. Facing Zhao Fu's terrifying strength, she would not be able to escape even if she used her nation armament. Zhao Fu's body still gave off a feeling of despair. "What do you want then?" Seeing Zhao Fu stop and smile, Song Xuanu understood what Zhao Fu's goal was. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "You're quite tactful. Your Blue Wolf Kingdom has no hope. The 7 Kingdoms' armies have already attacked us, and you've already lost half of your territory. The Blue Wolf Kingdom is doomed, so there's no need to struggle. Submit to me. As long as you submit to me, the Blue Wolf Kingdom will still be yours. Moreover, I will make you the most respected person within the half-wolf race." Hearing this, Song Shiwanu immediately understood what Zhao Fu was thinking, and she felt quite shocked. Zhao Fu had such a mysterious identity and terrifying ambitions. Just who are you? Song Shiwanu asked as she stared at Zhao Fu. She felt that Zhao Fu was definitely not an ordinary person, and he had the ambition to destroy the half-beast world. This showed just how terrifying Zhao Fu's identity was and how dangerous he was. Haha, who I am is not important. You have no choice but to submit to me. Otherwise, I'll take over the city heart and capture you, making you beg for death, Zhao Fu said as he laughed, his voice containing a trace of threat. Song Shiwanu sank into her thoughts. Was she going to submit to him just like that? Would she become a chess piece for him to destroy the half-beast world? She felt quite unwilling to accept this. Her ancestors' foundation had been destroyed by her, and she would be the greatest sinner of the Blue Wolf Kingdom. Suddenly, Song Shiwanu remembered that the other 3 kings were also heading over. With 4 kings attacking him, perhaps they would have a chance of protecting the Blue Wolf Kingdom. At the same time, she was part of the half-beast race, so she definitely would not help an outsider destroy her world. After making this decision, Song Shiwanu did not show it on her face and continued to think. Right now, the most important thing was to stall for time and wait for the others to arrive. Zhao Fu waited for a while, because Zhao Fu had already activated his perception of the 5 celestial senses. The range of his senses was incredibly large. At that moment, he sensed 3 powerful auras heading towards him, and his expression became grim as his body suddenly disappeared. Song Shiwanu was given a big fright and hurriedly unleashed a defensive barrier. However, Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and clawed at Song Shiwanu. The defensive barrier was unable to stop Zhao Fu at all and shattered. Zhao Fu's hand passed through the defensive barrier and grabbed towards Song Shiwanu's throat. At that critical moment, Song Shiwanu exploded out with the terrifying power of her nation armament. A terrifying white flame erupted around her body, and that terrifying power exploded out. A dragon's roar sounded out from within Zhao Fu's body as the Qin royal seal exploded out with all of its power. 9 black dragon images appeared around Zhao Fu. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as Song Shiwanu's throat was grabbed by Zhao Fu, and her body was lifted up by Zhao Fu with one hand. Song Shiwanu looked terrified. She had never thought that Zhao Fu would be so powerful. A nation armament of a true kingdom was comparable to 5 or 6 nation armaments that had not yet established a kingdom. However, Zhao Fu now had a marquee king of 10,000 or so regions and had all sorts of buffs, so Song Shiwanu was not a match for Zhao Fu at all. Now that Song Shiwanu's throat was being held by Zhao Fu, it was up to Zhao Fu to decide whether to kill her or not. Song Shiwanu felt an aura of death, and her body trembled in fear. She found it difficult to even breathe, and seeing that she could not change the situation, she could only say with difficulty, "I agree to submit to you." Zhao Fu coldly harumphed, but he did not let go of her neck. He stretched out his other hand, and 6 orbs of demonic chi flowed out, as if they were alive. They continuously wriggled in front of Zhao Fu's hand, and Zhao Fu pressed his hand against Song Shiwanu's abdomen, causing the 6 orbs of demonic chi to enter her body. Only after setting down restrictions within her body did Zhao Fu feel at ease. He then threw Song Shiwanu to the ground and said coldly, "Hurry up and move the city heart. Relocate the city heart." Hearing that Zhao Fu wanted her to relocate the city heart, Song Shiwanu felt quite wronged. She let out a sigh of relief when she heard that Zhao Fu wanted her to relocate the city heart. That way, the Blue Wolf Kingdom would be in her hands. Because it was only relocating the royal capital, it did not cause any abnormal signs. Zhao Fu ordered his soldiers to search for everything before quickly retreating. Now that Song Shiwanu had submitted, Zhao Fu naturally took over her soldiers and city lords. Of course, this matter had to be done in secret. There were a few reasons why Zhao Fu did not want to conquer the Blue Wolf Kingdom himself. One was because destroying a kingdom would cause too many abnormal signs and attract others. Chapter 1044. Now that they were outside the legacy land, there were many people more powerful than Qin. So Zhao Fu wanted to keep a low profile. He did not want to reveal too much of his strength and cause the other factions to attack him, which would not be good. In actuality, allying with other factions to attack others was not a bad idea. With how weak the Lulai Kingdom was, it was the best choice. Later, Zhao Fu sent out the news that the Lulai Kingdom had failed, and the Blue Wolf Kingdom's king had already taken the royal city and many people and escaped. After doing all of this, Zhao Fu gave a pleased smile and gave the order to retreat, leaving this place as soon as possible. Following this, the three half-beast kings arrived and saw that there was only an empty city. They felt incredibly furious, and one of the kings furiously unleashed terrifying attacks, destroying the city. They had the same goal as Song Xiunu, which was to chase out the grassy people who were trying to take advantage of the situation before dealing with the Blue Wolf Kingdom. However, Song Xiunu had suddenly said that the royal city had been attacked, so she had hurried back. The three of them immediately felt that something was off and wanted to stop Song Xiunu. They had never trusted her, and they had been wary of her playing any tricks. They were worried that she would return to the royal city and escape. However, they hadn't been able to stop her. Under the cover of some generals and armies, they had still let her escape. The three of them had hurried over, and now it seemed that Song Xiunu had indeed tricked them. She had moved King City away. However, if it was them, they would have done the same thing. After all, this was an invasion by 7 kingdoms, and the Blue Wolf Kingdom was destined to be destroyed. The 3 other grassy armies also wanted to attack the royal city, but it was too difficult, so they gave up on it for now. Now that they heard that the Lulai Kingdom had failed and that the Blue Wolf Kingdom's king had run away, they did not pay too much attention to it. The 7 kingdoms were like wild beasts devouring everything within the Blue Wolf Kingdom's territory, and they did not hold back at all as they quickly conquered cities and regions. Facing these bandit-like people, the ones suffering were the Blue Wolf Kingdom's residents. Now, they could only flee in all directions in fear to avoid this calamity. This was the consequence of a country being destroyed. In the end, all of the Blue Wolf Kingdom's territory was divided by the 7 kingdoms, and the Blue Wolf Kingdom was destroyed, disappearing from the map and becoming history. The Blue Wolf Kingdom had 340 regions, and because the grassy people had attacked quite early and there was not much resistance, they had obtained many benefits. The grassy people had conquered 230 regions this time, and every kingdom had conquered 40 to 50 regions. The Lulai Kingdom was the smallest, and Zhao Fu had done this on purpose to reduce the threat of the kingdom's attention and to prepare for future development. The half-beast side had only conquered 110 regions, and they had suffered great losses. This made them feel quite angry. After spending so much effort, all of the benefits had been taken by others. The 2 armies quickly clashed, and the 2 terrifying auras clashed. Everyone felt as if they were submerged in icy water, and they couldn't help but tremble. The wild beasts and birds in the surroundings had long since fled, and not a single one of them dared to stay behind. You shameless and despicable grassy people, we can give up everything you stole from us, but you better get the hell out of the half-beast world. A tall half-beast king said loudly with a furious expression as he looked at the grassy people across from him. The grassy people had the advantage in terms of soldiers, city lords, and core, so they naturally did not have to fear the other side. They had indeed taken a lot of resources from the Blue Wolf Kingdom, causing them to grin and feel quite happy. They could not return the things, but they wanted territory. After all, their kingdom only had 200 to 300 regions, and taking a single region would take a lot of effort. However, they had taken 40 to 50 regions, which was equivalent to 1/5 or even 1/6 of their kingdom's territory. How could they give away such massive benefits? Moreover, they had the advantage in numbers, so they were not afraid. On the grassy people's side, a long-faced king loudly laughed as he said, "This is what we deserve. We spent so much effort to take these things, and you want us to give them to you? Do you think we're stupid? Moreover, it's not just you three who are talking about territory. Everyone's status is the same, and we're also taking other people's things. Stop acting so righteous. If you want it, then come and take it. Do you think we grassy people are afraid of you? The three half-beast kings felt furious, but they did not lose their rationality. After all, if the two sides fought, they would be at a disadvantage. It was possible that they would not be able to take back their things and would lose many soldiers. This is our half-beast world's territory, and as half-beasts, we have the right to make our own decisions. You shameless bastards, you dare to take our territory? Aren't you afraid of starting a world war? A slightly chubby half-beast yelled. The grassy people did not seem to mind and laughed. There were simply too many factions involved in a world war. It was not that easy to start one. If they fought, neither side would benefit, and the other worlds would benefit. As such, they did not have to worry. Zhao Fu did not say anything in the air, acting like an unremarkable minor figure. He let the other three half-beast kings take charge and watched as the two sides cursed at each other. After facing off for a few days, the two sides still did not fight. Neither side wanted to make a big deal out of this. If an even more powerful faction got involved, it was possible that they would not be able to obtain anything. Following this, the two kingdoms started to construct their own great walls, planning to cover the entire region before slowly digesting it. After this, the Lalai kingdom's relationship with the surrounding kingdoms became better. They welcomed Zhao Fu, the Lalai kingdom's prince consort, and they even planned to invite Zhao Fu to a banquet to celebrate this victory. Zhao Fu humbly refused and kept a low profile as he returned to the Lalai kingdom and started to take inventory of his gains. They had one royal city, 2 capital cities, and 300 or so great cities. They also had 300 million people and 10 million or so Stage 1 soldiers. Zhao Fu was quite satisfied with these gains. Of course, most of these were hidden by Zhao Fu, and no one else knew about them. Zhao Fu did not plan to bring these things back to Qin Kingdom, and he decided to stay in the Lalai Kingdom to strengthen it. After all, the Lalai Kingdom was an important chess piece that Qin Kingdom had planted, so he had to properly develop it. At the same time, Zhao Fu secretly established the Blue Wolf Kingdom in the Lalai Kingdom in preparation for destroying the half-beast world in the future. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.